Here we go. It's a Friday morning, and yes, I just took the wind out of her sail, but she's still on the high seas. My name is Babatunde, and she is...
That caught me off guard. And I'm Sweetie Aboshi. You actually, if you look on the screen, you look like you're going
I look very Babatunde-ish.
You're going to Mecca, and I'm just sort of escorting you there.
Yes.
But folks, welcome aboard the AM show. Quickly, let's tell you what the lineup is looking like this morning. We'll start by serving you the AM news, and after that, we'll get into the news review. For today, Andrew Appiah Danquah, he's spokesperson for the Movement for Change. He'll be joining us, as well as Kwame Nkrumah Botsio. He's the General Secretary for the CPP, and Kofi Apalu of the Liberal Party of Ghana. Unfortunately, he didn't win that bid to become president. When he joins us, we'll find out how he's faring. But then we get into our big stories after that. Ben.
Well, Kofi does have some curious thoughts sometimes, doesn't he? But let's get into the big stories. And Ghana's cocoa revenue, guess what? Recorded $1.7 billion. That was an all-time low in a span of 15 years, with dwindling production and the existential threat of galamsey cited as major causes. We'll be unpacking the issues as we engage our data analysts as well as our other guests on that specific beat.
And then Benjamin Akakpo will serve you his blunt thoughts. I thought you teased us with the title this morning. But of course, today is a Friday, so after his blunt thoughts, we get into the E-Corner. And I cannot wait to see what Noella does today, because it's turning out to be my favorite segment on Fridays. But folks, this is what we have lined up for you, and many other conversations you don't want to miss. But you can join the conversation on social media. Across all platforms, we are Joy News on TV. So join us. But for now, we serve you the AM News. Hi folks, I'm Sweetie Aboshi, and this is the AM News. Let's start with the President John Dramani Mahama, who's revealed that he will refer the findings of the Operation Recover or Loot Committee to the appropriate investigative bodies for action, adding that he will receive the report next week. Speaking during his thank you tour to the Central Region, he warned his new appointees that they will be held to the same standards as officials from the past government.
We're going to implement a very strict system of accountability, and as I said, we will come out with a code of conduct for persons who occupy positions of trust. We are not going to pursue only members of the past regime to account to the people of Ghana. We're going to pursue our own people to make sure that they are held accountable to the people of Ghana. So even as we investigate those who have just left office, and we carry out our Operation Retrieve All the Loot, and we implement Operation Retrieve All the Loot, those who are current office bearers should also know that they'll be held to the same standard as we are holding the past regime. After all, they say, Aba yadebo techi, yadebo bang. Next week, the oral committee that I set up is going to present its report to me, and I'll refer it to the investigative organizations to start their investigations against people who have misappropriated the resources of this nation.
President John Dramani Mahama has also been talking about his government's commitment to operationalizing the Anumabo Fisheries College. Here's more.
This morning, we visited the Anumabo Fisheries College, as you were told by the Vice President. It was a dream of our late President, President John Evans Atta Mills. It was packaged and work was started, and it was at an advanced stage of completion for the first phase when we left office. It is unacceptable that for 8 years that project has been abandoned and has not been continued. As I said, the budget is going to be read in March, and we're going to make provision in the budget to continue the project so that by the end of this year, we can open that college for students. Upon completion, the project will be handed over to the University of Cape Coast and will be put under their Faculty of Agriculture to provide degrees in fishing and training in aquaculture.
Let's stay on the president for a tad bit longer because he promised his government would dualize the road from Winneba Roundabout to Cape Coast.
Late last year, the contract for the first phase of the dualization of the Kasua-Winneba Road started. Upon completion, this project will facilitate the movement of goods and services and enhance trade. The second phase of this project will be from Winneba Roundabout to Mankesem Roundabout. And the third phase will be from the Mankesem Roundabout to Cape Coast. While phase 1 is ongoing, phase 2 and phase 3 will be packaged and funded under our Big Push program. We also have targeted important roads like the Yamuransa-Praso Road and then the Cape Coast to Twifo-Praso Road, amongst others.
Now let's get into Parliament because the minority in Parliament is charging the government to adopt the NPP's special initiative of purchasing ambulances for all constituencies across the country and do same for the fire service. The service has complained about faulty fire tenders with so many parts of the country without any working fire tenders, hampering its efforts to deal with recent fire outbreaks. And addressing journalists in Parliament, NPP MP for Forukrom, Mike Edu, explained that an initiative to equip every district with a working fire tender will put the fire service in readiness to deal with any fire outbreak in the country.
I believe we are doing a lot of lip service. We are doing a lot of lip service because if you look at the damage to our environment, you go to places and you see the way we burn things. People, you live next door and your neighbor is burning things into the atmosphere without consent to the neighborhood, without consent to the environment. You visit places and people still engage in bushfire burning. You go to villages and people want to go and catch game, and then they will still burn the forest. Devastation being caused by galamsey, devastation being caused by farming, our grasslands being devastated by fire, and so on. And then when you come to our communities, I feel some of these climate extremes that are going on, as a country, we've not put so much budget to it. How do we equip the National Disaster Management Organizations like NADMO? How do we equip the fire service? How many fire tenders are in the country? I know we are developing as a nation. There was a point in time where we didn't even have enough ambulances. Due to government efforts, we were able to procure enough ambulances. So in the same way, we have to take action and consciously get budgetary allocation for the fire service.
The Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amoako-Hene, has issued a 2-week ultimatum to persons mining in forests and along river bodies to desist from the illegality. Beg your pardon. He says the Regional Security Council is going all out to ensure the protection of forest and water bodies. The minister emphasized his commitment to support the president's move of ensuring mining is done properly. Nanaya Ojima was at a press conference in Kumasi and filed this report.
Ashanti region is among areas plagued by illegal mining, with forest and water bodies among areas of target for gold mining. Though efforts were made by previous administrations to halt the menace, forest and water bodies have continued to come under attack. In carrying through President Mahama's drive to promote responsible mining, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amoako-Hene, has reviewed plans to stop mining in forest reserves and water bodies.
The president has issued out a directive that anyone in the forest reserves mining should vacate those spaces. We are giving them up to 2 weeks. That if you are mining within the forest reserves and you don't want to be on the bad side or on the other side of the law, you have 2 weeks to vacate or to leave those spaces. Again, the other area had to do with our water bodies. So we are also giving them 2 weeks period, that if you know you have any investment whatsoever and you are on the water bodies, polluting them and then destroying our water bodies, you have 2 weeks to leave the space. We will send out a team to make sure we restore normalcy and restore order within the mining sector.
In most mining communities in the region, many pits are left open after being mined illegally. Already, the Environmental Protection Authority has started enforcement, seizing some mining equipment. Dr. Mwakohene has assured the government's preparedness to follow through with a comprehensive program to deal with illegal mining.
Having done that, we also realize that most of the rivers have their paths through different or other regions, for which reason the effort within Ashanti region to even curb the Galamsey and the illegal mining issue may not or really does not come to light. So what is happening is that I'm working together with the other regional ministers who equally share most of the tributaries of the river, and the river passes through their regions, so that we can be holistic in our approach towards fighting this Galamsey issue.
Meanwhile, the minister, in reacting to the recent violent clash between the military and illegal miners in Obuasi, said investigations are underway. He assured thorough work will be done.
Not long ago, 9 lives were lost due to the clash between the military and illegal miners. The president issued a white paper demanding investigations to be conducted into the matter. This will help us protect the people of the area.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
The former Hajj board has welcomed the new board's decision to investigate how a $5 million debt was incurred from past pilgrimages. Chairman of the 5-member interim Hajj task force, Alhaji Collins Dauda, revealed at a news conference yesterday that the debt left by the previous administration is owed to various firms that provided services for the pilgrimage. We'll tell you more.
The debt is made up of the following. The company that provides catering service for us, for our programs in Mecca, we are indebted to them to the tune of $446,933 United States dollars. The airline that lifted our programs last year, we are indebted to them to the tune of $4,429,260 United States dollars. I'm talking about flying out. And lastly, we are indebted to a company called Al-Jiwa that provides accommodation and catering service for our programs in Medina. That also stands at $533,333 United States dollars. Together, it's $5,409,503. We have checked around us, our neighboring countries. We checked a fare in Nigeria, and on the average, Nigeria is charging $5,500 United States dollars.
However, in a sharp rebuttal, the former board challenged the figures announced by Alhaji Dauda and insisted that any such investigation should begin from 2016, when they also inherited a $7 million debt from the then NDC-led board. Alhaji Rahman Gumda, a spokesperson for the SWAL board.
Will be that fine, wonderful move if such an investigation is done. But the investigation should start from 2016, when at the time we took over, the board, the indebtedness stood at $7.87 million, in addition to 452 prospective pilgrims who paid up but could not be airlifted. But due to the intervention of government, these were airlifted to go and perform the Hajj and back. And it's instructive to also note that the amount he's quoting is not the exact figure. It is below $5 million as he puts it. It's about $4.something million. And it's also important to note that over the years, the issue of Hajj has been politicized, which shouldn't be the case. Look, this is a religious affair, and that governments have over the years subsidized this Hajj thing. But for the past 2 years, the NPP administration was unable to continue with the subsidies, as a result of which the real cost of the Hajj had to be borne by the individual citizens. I also wish to add that during our tenure, the cost had to go higher than the previous times because some novelties were introduced, such as 2 square meals a day, in the light of fluctuations in the value of our cedi against the dollar. All these things have gone to increase the cost.
In other stories, the Food and Drug Authority has warned to clamp down on non-iodized salt products on the market to curb the occurrence of iodine deficiency disorders. The authority stressed that producers found culpable would be made to face the law for flouting the regulation.
Salt is a core ingredient in almost every meal and holds essential nutrients for the development and survival of the human body. However, it has been identified that most local salts on the Ghanaian market do not have the required iodine content in them, putting consumers at risk. Consuming salt without the right amount of iodine could lead to iodine deficiency disorders such as goiter, infertility, growth delays, and intellectual disabilities, among others. To ensure public safety, the Food and Drugs Authority, with support from the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, is sensitizing artisanal salt producers on the imperative need to add iodine to their products. Faustina Atupra is the director of the Food Safety and Consumer Education Directorate of the FDA.
We are sensitizing them on the need to iodize the salt, and per our Public Health Act, it is mandatory to iodize salt. It is to ensure that the salt is iodized to a level that is 50 ppm according to the Ghana standards at the factory level, to ensure these things have been done to ensure that those who eat it, or consumers, people who consume the salt, will have enough iodine to improve the nutritional status of Ghanaians.
She said her outfit would crack the ship after giving producers ample time to adjust and comply with the regulation.
Iodization, what we'll do is that we'll do market surveillance activities. We'll pick from the production sites, we'll pick during transportation when they are taking it, we'll pick at the markets, and then we'll check the iodine content of it. If we realize that you are not iodizing, regulatory sanctions will be meted against you. If we realize that even at the market, we can trace from the market to the source, and then whatever, and also at the factories or at the mining sites, we'll pick and then test. If you are not iodizing, it will be detained, and then you'll be forced to do the iodization before you can move the salt. Because the law says that all salts for human and animal consumption would have to.
Participants, mostly salt producers in the Keta Enclave, lauded the FDA on the enlightenment and promised to abide by the regulations to ensure public safety. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Keta.
Finding one's career path is a journey that often takes years, even decades. But for 3-year-old Nancy Owusu, destiny seems to have braided itself neatly into her tiny fingers. Despite her tender age, Nancy has already dazzled the world with an extraordinary talent for hair braiding, a skill her parents believe is nothing short of a natural gift. Emmanuel Bright Kweku tells us more.
Little Nancy, busy at work with all seriousness and dexterity to get a plait of hair done. Swiftly twisting the strands of hair, The 3-year-old's adeptness at braiding has left residents in Tabre, a community along the Kumasi-Sunyani Road, in awe. It all began one afternoon after she returned from school. Amina Yakubu is the mother.
1.5 months in here. Obane ebotri. Obesu ha mi amansino.
A month and a half ago, when she returned from school, she worried me to allow her join us braid. I did not mind her until she woke up from her sleep and forcefully joined us. I was surprised at how she was braiding.
What are you holding? What is this? Where are they?
Ahoma.
Ahoma. And what's your day?
Ahoma ring.
Ahoma ring. How old are they?
Midi bottle.
Midi bottle. In a one a three with tribo. One house here. And to make us a bottle, mammy, I'll bet me abo. Bobby Name. Bobby Name.
Mama Bowen.
Bobo wait. Until we are Mamma on Bobby. Okay, so she has become a wonder in this particular town. You're talking about Tabre in the Ashanti region, and in fact, everywhere across the country.
After an exciting day at school, little Nancy spends her leisure time doing what she loves and does best.
I am
glad my daughter could braid because she could also take up my job. Little Nancy isn't only a wonder in a small Tabre community, she's left social media users agog. Realizing her uniqueness and potential, Ebenezer Kubila, a relative, now her social media manager, set up an account on various platforms to expose the unique skill to the world.
I want the whole world to hear of her. And also, I myself want to build her to some extent that even if her mother is not there, she can do something for herself as far as the talent is concerned. So every time I keep on motivating her to keep on doing it.
In the last few months, little Nancy has attracted a lot of customers to her mother's beauty parlor to receive the gentle, soft touch of her tiny hands. Some people just come here for her to touch their hair for them. They can even wait for hours for her to return from school. Nancy naturally comes as an active, bubbly girl who is curious to know her environment. She told me some time back that she would want to braid my hair, but I never believed her until I saw her braiding with her mother. I was surprised. When I gave birth to her, she kept gazing at the room. The nurses were even surprised at her. With no official attempt for a world record, you perhaps may want to consider her Ghana's youngest braider. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
How old are you?
3 years.
You are 3 years old.
On that rather lovely note, let's get into our business update now with Benjamin Akapo.
You're live on our business updates. Let's start with what's happening on the currency market. Well, let's get into the stories now. And former managing director of SIC Insurance, Hollister Duah-Yentumi, has withdrawn the legal application challenging the termination of her appointment by President John Dramani Mahama. There's more in this Business Desk report.
Joy Business understands that she took this action after a meeting between the two parties at the center of this impasse earlier today. We are also learning that she has also stepped down the application seeking to challenge the appointment of James Ejenim Boateng as the new managing director of SIC Insurance. Sources say government has also agreed to go through the right approach when it comes to how the managing director of the insurance company should be appointed. Based on what we are hearing today, it is likely that Madam Duah-Yentumi may get what is due her in terms of the compensation for a former managing director. There are also strong indications that there will be a formal handing over next week with the necessary documentation between the former managing director, Hollister Duah-Yentumi, and the current boss of SIC Insurance, James Ejenim Boateng.
Now, insurance companies have justified the 10 percentage point increment in third-party tariffs from February the 1st, 2025. This is despite an earlier directive from the National Insurance Commission for the increase to be frozen until further notice. But the insurance companies insist that looking at the current environment, it might be difficult to comply with the regulator's directive. Dr. Kingsley Kwesi Kwabason is the chief executive of the Ghana Insurers Association.
Section 2561A of the Insurance Act gives the power to the Commission to set a minimum rate. And then the law is that practitioners cannot go below the minimum. The minimum rate as at now, per the conversation we have, is a rate that was established in 2024. That's 482 Ghana cedis on average.
Okay.
What we are saying is that in reality, we want to charge above the minimum, which is the 10% rate. I am reflecting about 530, and for a number of reasons. Cost of doing business generally has gone up. We're talking of inflation, we're talking of all these factors, exchange rate hikes, and other things that have direct impact on our operations. And so we are not saying that we are necessarily increasing. What we are doing is that we are charging a rate above the minimum that has been set, and that is the 10% increment in terms of the rate. NIC's directive sets the minimum. The minimum is 482. We have said that the NIC has set the minimum, but then looking at our operations, we must charge beyond the minimum.
Make tracks now into the commodities market. And that's how we cap off our business updates. Handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Well, thank you, Babatunde, for serving us business updates. But that's it for the AM News Bulletin on the AM show. Coming up next is the News Review segment. And those who will join us, Andrew Appiah Danquah, he's spokesperson for the Movement for Change. Kwame Nkrumah Botsio is General Secretary of the CPP. And Kofi Apalu, Liberal Party of Ghana. They join us to review the newspapers. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome aboard the News Review segment on the AM show. It's Friday, and hopefully our energy can rub off you. But in the studio with Ben and I this morning is Andrew Appiah Dankwa, spokesperson for the Movement for Change. And along the line, when our other guests join us, we'll introduce them to you. Appiah Dankwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How is it going? Friday? Easy Friday?
Very easy Friday.
Okay. Have you seen Babatunde though yet?
Yeah. That's my official name today.
Babatunde?
Yeah, so don't call me Ben. Call me Babatunde.
Baba.
I started the show by introducing... Yeah.
And today.
Yes.
Hey, you know easy.
Or make a hard time with one. Right. Anyway, that reminds me of Kwame Nkrumah Botio.
Yeah.
Kobash.
Kobash.
I've remembered the name.
No, you should never forget the name. Osajifo Kobash.
Osajifo Kobash. Anyway, I guess we'll see to you for your quick thoughts for us this morning.
Yeah, so let me wish your lovely viewers good morning. Wish the two of you a good morning. Always a pleasure to be on your set and to be in your company. Today, what has been going through my mind, and it's been going through my mind since yesterday after I had reports, I watched a video of an honorable member of parliament admonishing the members of his party to more or less aid other members when they are in fight or when they are in some form of battle with other Ghanaians who just happen to share a different view about how governance ought to be done. For me, it brings in sharp focus why we have leaders in the first place and why our leaders must be and stay fidel to the reason, the purpose, the principles, aspirations, and values of the people they are meant to lead. I think it is important in the light of that we remind ourselves of why we even took upon ourselves this constitution in the first place. Yeah. And it's very necessary to, as in just in the first paragraph of the preamble, this is said, we the people of Ghana, in exercise of our natural and inalienable right to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and prosperity, the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity and prosperity, and then goes on to then outline the principles that underpins our constitution. And one of them is in the spirit of friendship. Now, if you also appreciate the architecture of the state of Ghana, the fact that Ghana is essentially an amalgamation of different countries, different cultures, different people, but who have managed under, especially with the vision and leadership of our first president, to amalgamate into one powerful country. Then people will lead, people who took an oath to be faithful to Ghana, essentially to be faithful to those principles, those values, and those ideals, must reflect these ideals, must reflect the desire to foster and enhance the unity of this country, not to divide us. We may have different views about life, and rightly so. We took upon ourselves, we deliberately took upon ourselves this structure, this system, this framework, because we believe that that's the best system that can secure for ourselves our right to life, our right to liberty, and our right to pursue our own happiness.
Right.
So in the spirit of these principles, then people who lead us should reflect these values, and they should take steps in whatever they do, in their language, in their behaviors, in their action. They should take steps that will enhance this unity as against destroying it. They should take steps that will guarantee and secure and entrench this framework, because that's the only way in which we can secure for ourselves the purpose of the constitution. So in the light of that, I condemn in no certain terms, as in the language of the Honorable MP, I condemn the kind of spirit, the kind of values which they show. These are values that do not represent our values. Our values are one that promotes unity, promotes respect for different view, and believe that in the resort to disagreement, we must have recourse to the law, not to what's called our individual passions. And so that's my thought for the day. We need to build this country and build a very strong nation.
That's something to ponder on.
Yes.
But let's usher in Kwame Nkrumah Botio into the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Officially, Osajifo Kobash.
I thought you had forgotten.
We shall never forget.
You mentioned it right before you came.
Yeah, right before.
We shall never forget.
Lawyer Biggie.
I wanted to say that it wouldn't be Kwame Nkrumah without your notebook.
Yes, yes.
I should get one like that. I keep forgetting things these days. But
I'll get
talk
you
to
one.
us about. Yes, thank you. What's on your mind this morning?
You know what's on my mind is the people of Ho. I've been following that story for some time now, and it really breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. His Excellency, the President, is doing a good job. He's doing a very, very good job so far. You shouldn't forget the people of Wo. The water shortage. You know, in Ghana, a problem anywhere is a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
And we all know, I mean, the days back where a yellow gallon was named after a certain former president. I wouldn't want to go into details. Apparently, the water system at Ho was built for 5,000, population of 5,000. Now the population is 250,000, due to grow to 500,000 very soon. And I saw some figures being bandied around, I think $53 million or so to expand it. I want to plead with His Excellency to add it to his top 3 priorities so that an immediate solution can be found to the water problem. You know, when you don't have water, even when you wake up in the morning, it will even make you late for work. Going to look for water, the risk of cholera and other things. That is what is on my mind.
I don't know if it's a similar thing happening in Accra, but although it's solved now, the whole of last week and beginning of this week, I didn't have water flowing through our taps. Wow. Somewhere between Manette and Lekma, those areas. And it was terrible. Luckily, we have a well, a borehole of a sort, so we could rely on that. But I woke up, every time I wake up, around 3:30, 4 a.m., you see people walking around with yellow, gallons trying to find water. It's not a very pleasant situation to be in. Right. Ben, quick thoughts before we get to the papers, or should we get straight to
rather some quick thoughts I'd like to get their thoughts on, since both of them are lawyers. There have been a lot of boards, committees, a few things here and there. Today I'll talk about part of them in my blunt thoughts. But the Hajj board and the fact that they feel there was some rot that they have to uncover. The Hajj fees have been reduced by, I think, 13K. But some would have wished it was more. What are your reflections on, these bits about always having some rot that happened when an erstwhile board or institution or administration was in power? I'm not saying there isn't any, but why is it that there are always these situations? And the second one, it's also a legal angle. Hollister Diaye to me, the former SIC boss, and her situation. I'm actually looking at her appointment letter from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, dated the 18th of December, and she was supposed to take over on the first day of January 2024. If you come to Equity, you must come with clean hands. So her situation and what it brings in terms of a legal tussle. Some say, look, the right things must be done in terms of fading out these people. But at the same time, the president has the prerogative. What is your take on that? Just quick thoughts so we can get into the papers.
So the first thing has to do with the Hajj board, and also there's so many other boards whose focus is to more or less justify why there was a change of government. It was essentially so to tell us, listen, they did this rot, they did this rot, and so for me, I think is the politicians always wanting to play politics when really we give them power and they're supposed to effect change. So even when we've gone through the process and they want power, instead of using that power to serve the people, we still want to play the politics. You get the picture. So as much as I believe that we must, and especially in the light of some of the fundamental principles underpinning our constitution, being probity and accountability, I think there must be a sharp difference, a divide between where we play politics and where we serve. And maybe we can help them. And we can help them by having independent bodies who can give proper accountability, so that matters that borders on probity and accountability is not left to the whims of regular politics. Right. Because usually it's essentially what happens that they tell us that this has been done negatively, this has been done negatively, and then we do not, as in nobody is eventually held accountable, really, most of the time. So yes, we all understand that it's politics, they are politicians, but we must have a clear understanding of when we play the politics and when we do the real job. And maybe I think the system must help them by creating independent, accountable institutions that will do that job, so that they can go on, if they are interested in doing their politics, they can go and do their politics while the real job of governance is done. So that's my view on the issue of
The SIC voice, who, by the way, was earning 70,000 Ghana cedis monthly with other...
84,000 dressing allowance.
A year, yes.
Charlie Jobs did this country.
Charlie.
Peche. Well, you can understand why, I mean, you wouldn't want to leave such...
MD, exactly, but... I think you also said something about also the rising being done. I know arguments have been made that it's something that you should expect. But
something we should probably look into.
But the rising ought to be done. We know that you can what's called abrogate a contract and employment contract either through a termination or a dismissal. They all have their incidents. Although that in terms of termination.
Yeah.
So you see, it's something that we all expected when the fresh president comes. It will be fresh leadership. But having said that, at least there must be some consistent procedure that does not infringe the law, and that's what we should insist.
Okay.
But having said that, I think it ought to be expected. I'm surprised she wanted to take this as far as going to court.
The ADB MD, former ADB MD, he is singing,
was one of the same man that got into some money embezzlement issue?
He doesn't want trouble. He's resigned.
So, if you look at my paper on page 6, resigns. You know, from my brief thoughts.
You know the CPP being a party that champions women's rights. I've followed this story closely. And at a point, with the way the story was being put, it was making the MD look a bit bad.
Yeah.
But after what came out yesterday and the package that is being offered her, she's being compensated from the news reports for the rest of her tenure. Yeah. It looks as if she wasn't wrong in what she did. Of course, locking up your office and going home with the keys can be a bit, overboard. But if apparently she had a 3-year contract starting from 1st January 2004, and the government is a 40% shareholder. The government is I don't know whether the government is a majority shareholder, but I know they have 40%. And I also listened to my learned senior, our own senior, who was ahead of us at the law faculty, Martin Kwebu. And he analyzed it very well, quoting cases like Adams and Tando. And he admitted that it's a 50-50 situation. It's a gray area. That was before they sat down with her. And now they've agreed that there'll be a formal handover with meetings
next week.
And everything. So I think, once again, I'm always happy when the women win. Once again, the woman has won.
I love the test of the law, but again, you look at the other side and...
like you said,
it's 50-50.
Yeah. It's 50-50. But you know, a contract is a contract.
Yeah.
You see, and it's SIC is not a political party. It's not a branch of any... It's a state institution. And His Excellency is doing a very good job. When it comes to this constitutional review and the powers of appointment and termination, I know he will do something about it to avoid this embarrassment that happens every few years. You know, you have people being dragged in the mud and then reinstated when their party comes back. And now going to the Hajj, Hajj also. You know, one thing about politics is sometimes there's a lot of exaggeration, and sometimes there's a lot of false accusation. I don't have the details per se. I've listened to a few programs where somebody even claimed that instead of 67,000, it can go as low as 30,000. Somebody claimed he went on the Hajj for
on his own, which is pretty difficult.
For 30,000, which is less than half of. So I don't know what goes into the 67,000. And I think that that is how politics is everywhere. It shouldn't be so. Ghana should set a different example. In the UK, in the US, anytime a new party comes, oh, this person did this. I think the UK Prime Minister, did he buy a suit or something for, was it £140 or something? It became a big issue, you see. So I think I agree with my brother that there should be an independent body to manage all these things.
Okay.
We, the politicians, should, our main duty is to provide the security and the conducive environment for the citizenry to grow.
Right.
We should not always have our fingers in every pie in society. And this constitutional review with our own brother, Rena Akumperiga, I mean, very astute people. I know they'll do an excellent job.
Sweetie, what do you think on this matter? I think it's either you ensure that, look, so if someone is appointed, right, regardless of the change in government, that person must finish his or her tenure, or you realize maybe we should make it such that if you are ending a political cycle, you don't make appointments that will go beyond.
Yeah.
Do you get it? There must be some solution in there because, look, we may say that, why is the woman acting this way? You know how it's done. You coming into, you knew exactly what it was. Someone had to go for you to come. But on the other end too, the legal test, does she have, like he said, it's a bit tricky, 60-40, 50-50. So it's something that must be looked at. And others are walking away. She is going to get some perks. So in the end, she's not lost. Anyway, CT.
Yeah, I side with you, Apia Dankwa, because I think that we should remove the politics from these appointment nominations, especially when it comes to state enterprises like this, you know. So that at the end of the day, nobody is tagging you as partisan and they want to move you out. Maybe before you know, she's the best person to serve in that place. Exactly. But commentary pouring in suggests that if she was doing such a good job, we would have seen a better SIT than we have.
Someone has sent a message saying that we should even state-owned enterprises that are not delivering. You know, a lot of them are making and then they are getting all these perks at the top level. But I think to know they work.
So that's what I'm saying.
Entertainment allowance.
We should look at
entertainment allowance.
Let's get into the newspapers. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, Awudome Cemetery falls apart. Deteriorating facility turned into criminal den. Oh, Awudome. I went to Awudome 3 Junior High School. We used to buy wachi right by the cemetery. My goodness.
that was
Junior high school days. Clote Kole MP advocates stricter measures against cyber crime. Have we found whoever said those derogatory, those, you know, unrepeated words about this woman? We've not found her yet. Teacher jailed 120 months for stealing bank's 238,550 Ghana cedis. Collaborates with Finance Minister for funding to complete Anomabo Fisheries College, the president said yesterday during his thank you tour to the Central Region. I want to start with the story of Awudome Cemetery that is deteriorating. So the Awudome Cemetery in Accra, a sacred and serene resting place for the dead, is gradually being turned into a dumping site with trash and filth littering the grounds and front view of the place. Skip to the part where it says the cemetery is also being used as a place of convenience by junkies and some individuals who operated businesses around the place. I think this falls under the jurisdiction of MMDCEs, right? And Town Development Council local government. What are they doing about these places? Those for the public cemeteries. We also have private cemeteries, which I think that I haven't seen any private cemetery that is completely out of shape yet, except the public ones, which goes to tell you how we treat public institutions in this country. But let me throw this to you, gentlemen. What do you make of it before I even go on to other stories?
Well, I think it's a very bad situation. If you go to the private cemeteries and Gethsemane and others, I mean, so well kept, somebody may make the excuse that to bury somebody at the public cemeteries, you may not have to pay as much as the private cemeteries. But then why do we pay taxes? Why do we elect people at the local government level? It is a very bad situation. I think these are some of the things that those in the local areas, when it comes to voting for people into our local administrations, we should look at all these things, because you have people there who've been there for many years. They are not doing anything, but we keep on voting them into office. We have to look at all these things. And also, if the government feels they cannot run it effectively, they can even look at a public-private partnership. Because Our Dome Cemetery has been going down for so many years. Osu occasionally is spruced up a bit, but I don't know why the neglect there. Maybe because
we don't think the cemeteries need our attention much. I mean, where was our call? They just put it in the ground there.
But one of the best ways of showing what your society is about how you treat the dead, the aged, the dead, and all that. And if your dead lie, I mean, it's sacred. You understand? These are loved ones gone past, and we imagine if we here were in such a place and it was, think about it.
Yeah, well, we revere our ancestors. We don't, I'm not saying we worship them, but we hold them in high esteem. We talk about them fondly. So we do have to pay attention to their resting places.
Right.
Well, for me, I think what is happening to the cemetery there reflects a fundamental failure of our local government system. And the fact that real governance is done at the local level, not... Because when you go to the very advanced countries, the president's focus on foreign affair issues and the proper governance is done by the mayors, you understand? And for Ghana, unless and until we do proper local governance, then government can be for our benefit, having the benefit of the people, because we need to decentralize such that in a small community, as in proper, because that's where the governance is done. So in Ghana, sadly, forgive me for bringing this up. You have vice presidents and presidents concern themselves with going to inaugurate toilets. You see, clearly, we've turned the whole governance thing upside down. We've turned the whole thing upside down. We have local governments. There's always a minister for local governments, and once again, we give power, but we don't work. I think, as a people, we need to reflect and take proper action. That proper action is to really, and Mama is talking about reset. One of the critical resets he can do, and he must do, is to strengthen the local government, the MMDCs. So we must have a real look at that whole structure. Because until we do that, then we can never achieve the purpose of democracy, which is not only government of the people, but government which is also by the people, and government which is for the people. So, it's sad what is happening to our Dome Cemetery, but I bet you if you go across the length and breadth of the country, most of our cemeteries are like like that, and it's because we have a local governance system which is not functioning.
I wonder where the EPA comes in here, because they're talking about junkies using the place as a place of convenience, crime over there. Their story goes on. Some people even narrate how they were attacked and so on and so forth. Maybe,
but that has been a long-standing problem. It's not a today problem. People have been robbed there decades ago. I mean, it's a long-standing problem. I feel particularly bad because I have dear relatives there, and maybe not every grouping can afford. You know what I mean? There are these plush places where you have to pay certain huge sums of money, and then you get, and then every year you have to pay. Not everybody can afford that. So,
in fact, that's where I think Ghana isn't trying at all, because in every society you have just a few people who will make money. It's normal, you understand? But you should be able to use the power we give you to ensure that at least certain level of living, basics, is made available to majority of the citizens. And unfortunately, it's like I'm saying, the presidents, the people we give power to, are not using those powers to deliver leadership that will ensure that it is to our benefit. Only a few people seem to have some quality of life, but it's because we have a local governance structure that is not working. In fact, we should be able to do decentralization to the extent that, like you're saying, the EP, it must be localized. Policing, it must be localized. Every must be when they are part of us, when they are in the communities, EP, it is. So
that sanitation issues will not be facing the sanitation
at all.
Facing. Because locally, if you do X, Y, Z, they are at your doorstep.
You understand? But everything is up there. The EP boss, like we know we have an EP boss. We see the person on TV. We don't know where the person is. They don't work. They draw entertainment allowance, but they don't work.
I hope that the new EPA boss changes the narrative.
Yeah.
I've met her. I have read a one-on-one for Women Power Politics, which you show later. And she seems like someone who has a lot of energy. You know, she speaks like she actually can do the work, especially on Galamsey, on the issue of Galamsey. We know she's already seized some excavators. I just hope that she changes the narrative.
But to be
let
fair,
me just add,
the two people who have the past one, Dr. Akurugu from the MPP and the current one, Prof. I think if you look at them, you look at their credentials and what they were trying to do, you can see that both of them had very good intentions and they tried their best. But at the same time, the system has its own way of doing the end.
Yeah, because if you have the right structure, strong system, then really the human being doesn't become too important. Important. The structure is
it's like Trump, some of the things he wanted to do during his first term. The system
some district court in Seattle stopped him in his own issues.
Unfortunately, people don't see the options you have. They judge you based on the decisions you make. So intention, if it doesn't translate into actually betterment of our lives, I don't know. Just two stories, just the headlines, and then I'll come to you. Newmont funds construction of 7.5 million Ghana cedis multi-purpose sports court. Whoever is going to benefit from that would be great news. And something about the National Service Secretariat. National Service Authority goes cashless. The National Service Authority has announced its mandatory transition to a cashless payment system and effective immediately. The authority says all user agencies and stakeholders must make payment, including that 20% and 10% administrative charges through the digital platform. So if you fall in that category, know that the National Service Authority no longer takes cash. Gentlemen, let's do some other story. You can reflect on this briefly if you want, and then we can get into it.
I would start with the NSA goes cashless. I'm very happy about my good friend Felix Jimfi's appointment. He's my mate from Legon.
Okay.
And his nickname is even heavier than. So I'm not saying
Biggie.
Biggie, no. I don't want to. His nickname is loaded.
Right.
It's loaded.
It's loaded. And very hardworking gentleman. I mean, from way back, level 100. Very humble. I know that he's going to do amazing things there. And they're going cashless is a testimony to the good work that he's going to do. And regarding Newmont 7.5 million sports complex, I think it's a good thing. Sports does a lot in stemming crime, building the youth. I went to Lagos for a funeral last year, and I was so impressed that there are flyovers. The big spaces under the flyovers, they've changed it into basketball courts, table tennis tables, and you have the street kids who otherwise would be getting up to mischief, doing something there. So I think Newmont has done a good job. And I hope that it will cater to the local areas. You know, we shouldn't neglect, this shouldn't be there waiting for All Africa Games or something. I mean, let the local populace also take part. If you cast your mind back to the recent election, CPP, we kept on saying that governance at your doorstep, even translated, say, baby awoto abano, eho nawo abai ewo. So we should localize as much as possible. And I'm sure that Newmont will open the doors to the...
Just a quick thought on the Newmont bit. This is where CSR becomes really, because we talk about Obuasi, Akwetia, and some of these places, and you go there and they are ghost towns. You should be able to tell that there's wealth here.
Yeah, exactly.
Wealth is generated from here, and the people are benefiting.
Yes.
Some communities across the world, when you go to mining areas, like the community is like a plush, parks and stuff. They live well, and we could easily replicate that. But brilliant idea. Last time I was in Lagos was, I think, over a year ago.
Okay.
I didn't see some of what you said.
I went there last year, April, yes.
Great. Then these are great initiatives. But you know, Nigeria is a powerhouse when it comes to basketball in Africa.
Yes, yes.
Not just Africa, because at the Olympics, their women's team did incredible things, beating Australia and the rest. And in table tennis as well, together with Egypt and the rest. So no surprises that they are targeting those
Sports is one way to take care of a lot of social issues.
Right. A brief thoughts before we get to the news center.
I think Kubasha said everything except to add.
Don't refer to him as. No. Call him Because he's intentionally calling you Kobash.
I hear you. Kobash, Osagyefo Kobash has said. But as in line with what you said, you know, I'm sure Newmont is doing what they are doing on the so-called social responsibility, and nice idea. But I think we can also help them by directing that social responsibility towards things that really benefit the locals in the area, not just about they doing something to represent something, because there seems to be something brewing in the mining communities. And case in point is what happened in Obuasi, where the people in the communities feel that the mining going on there is not benefiting them. So maybe if we can have a regime that will ensure that at least what is happening in Joburg, you know, Las Vegas was built after they discovered oil in Arizona, so they built something there. Yeah. Just, you understand, that we can see real benefit. There can be real, something real, we can tangible in terms of the quality of life of the people. They're not just to. So as much as we commend them, most of the time they just do something to represent. So they can say any social responsibility. So we both sports companies know there must be real attempts at improving the lives of the locals, so that the miners also benefit them.
It's interesting you mentioned Obuasi. I think maybe if those things had been done in the past, maybe we wouldn't have seen what we saw recently that took 9
No,
years.
in fact, I actually did my service. I know Obuasi very well. So when you go to Obuasi, so there's some segregation there. There's some, so you're talking about this sports. So they have Virginia, so they have Obuasi Sports Club, top-notch facilities. Yeah. But initially it was meant for just the experts. And then the few Ghanaians who managed to get into the senior management position. And they have something for the locals. And the difference in quality and... So you go to Obuasi, you go to, let's say, Bruno Estate, the estates, and it's like you're outside. If somebody takes a picture there and you think the person is outside. And then you go to the township itself and so the disparity between...
That's the argument. I remember when that clash happened, one of our reporters was speaking to them, and he said, or something, you know, same thing that you're talking about. So you are benefiting, you're creating the wealth.
And you know the sad thing, because I actually worked in their safety, health, and environmental department. No, I have a degree in renewable natural resource management. So every day we used to go and pick, samples from all the water bodies across cyanide, arsenic, so, and also the life expectancy in Obuasi, if there was data. Because I recall that one thing that was striking when I went there was majority of the obituaries you see, I rarely saw any obituary where the person died was more than 50 years old. Wow. And that was back in 2003, 2004. I don't have any, but
and you can imagine now.
Exactly. So the way the mining is done, because of the chemicals, is detrimental to the. In fact, you know, we used to talk about Obuasi and Kai, but there's scientific research that shows that because of the cyanide in the.
Are you serious?
There's some research. So at the end, because of how the gold is extracted, the people there will suffer. And yet,
so there must be some benefit for the
massive benefit for the.
It's a double one. We are not speaking against any mining entity. We're just putting it.
Okay, so I have the news center, and you have the cost of America's retreat. What a U.S. aid shutdown would mean for Ghana. You know, I've met a lot of colleague lawyers who work for American institutions, and things are suddenly hard for them. But I think it also means that we as Africa should take a look at ourselves. It's a time for an AU aid. Let's move away from US aid. What does America have that we do not have? It hurts. In the short term, I wish it had been a gradual, progressive thing. But it has happened. I don't know, maybe it may change. And I sympathize with all those who are going to face problems with the way Trump is running things. But he doesn't have two brains. You understand me? So I think he, in a way, as much as people say he's being brash and all that, he's also forcing us to look at what we have and what we can do if we come together. Because we keep on just splitting. Look at Rwanda and DRC and the Goma issue now. Yeah. What is AU doing about it? Yeah. You see, we sit down because we have our big brother, Father Christmas. At least we will get some fun. So our mind doesn't go there. But with this, AU, their mind will go to the Goma issue. Which funds are we going to use to fight this?
Yeah.
So it's an unfolding situation.
But of course, there are UN structures as well that hopefully would help. But if your girlfriend or boyfriend leaves you, you don't say you'll kill yourself because of that. You move on with life.
Exactly. Exactly. And we have another story. I fully paid all business debts owed banks, Afenyo Market. And I saw some listed companies, some are 18 million. I think it's normal for companies to go for loans. You see, and people are trying to impute some corruption to the loan. I mean, what is corrupt about going for a loan? I
think it was about repayment, because if you look at the story and I followed it a bit, he says, so this was an interview with GH1 TV. He acknowledged that his businesses, Square Logistics and Excel Courier, faced financial setbacks in the past, but successfully met all repayment obligations. Apparently, there was some time where some picture was created that he hadn't paid, and he says they litigated on that. Do you remember Ibrahim Mahama in this purported?
Yes.
And how many weeks ago, then all of a sudden the bank comes out to say, no, they are, that kind of, I don't know whether it's saying, but quoting him, he says, in the life of every business, you go through low moments. I started dealing with Access Bank and Intercontinental Bank in 2009. To end, they financed some trucks for my business. Along the line, we defaulted on loan repayments, and both of you understand what that means legally. And we even sued Access Bank on some issues. However, we resolved them and settled the matter legally.
Exactly.
So it's here and there, but in the end, if the financial obligations were...
And the banks do that all the time. They can restructure your loan for you. Sometimes they write off debts, I mean, depending on how you have dealt with them.
Ghana banks write off debts.
Well, you know, and there's provision for bad debts in the banking.
Oh yeah, I mean that.
In the banking sector. So I don't think, I mean, he has done anything that people should be on him for. And
you know, maybe let me add that it's on a lighter note. Don't you think that this bullet had his name etched on it? Afenyo Markin has been waxing since the year started. Everywhere you turn, you see Alexander Afenyo Markin in the middle of something, saying something, causing something, you know.
And in the appointments committee, he's been putting people to the sword.
Don't you think that this is what happens? This sort of, you know, although we bend from that clarity you just gave, we know that nothing really happened, that, you know. But when you are all over the place, people find ways to shut you up, you know.
It's true.
I just think that this bullet had his name etched on it, but thanks for the clarity.
No,
I had to say that.
We go back to, if you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. So if you want to point out what other, and rightly so, you must also be...
Oh yeah, exactly.
The Bible itself says it. As you observe, so are you observed. As you watch others, so are you watched. So if you want to talk and do, be sure your own backyard is... Yes, sir.
He also says, confess your sins one to another.
Yes.
I mean, nobody is clean. Anyway. And another interesting story, Mahama proposes July 1 as National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. I'm very happy. I'm very happy about that, because even America, the great America, their motto is "In God We Trust." It's on their dollar bill. They don't play with God. Sometimes we think that the more secular you become, the more you progress. But these developed countries, they may not outwardly show their spiritual side, but they show it by following the principles that religion talks about. Philanthropy, even they helping us with aid is a form of religion in our hard times. So this day of National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving, especially I like the Thanksgiving part. Things may not be perfect in Ghana, but what we have, a lot of countries would want to have it. That we have relative peace. I mean, we have a lot going for us. We have a lot going for us.
But on that day, you know, it coincides with two things that remain. Republic Day and Senior Citizens Day. They remain, but now we are adding prayer and Thanksgiving.
Plus the holiday or no holiday?
Oh, it will be a holiday.
It won't be a holiday.
I think it will be. It will be a holiday.
Reinstated. I'm sure.
That's what he said.
Sure.
Hey, Ghana.
Yes. And then, because that is actually the real independence.
Oh, yeah.
That is, yeah. And then we also... Of course, Republic Day.
Yeah.
Well, we have Independence Day, but that also added to our independence.
Yeah.
And we have another story about Baba Sam debunks false accusations, fights for custody of daughter.
I've seen this story in the papers like throughout this week.
Yes.
And I guess she also had to forcefully come out and...
It's that one. It's a he says, she says. But as I always say, CPP being a champion of women's rights. If
I think let's give Appiah Danquah a chance to reflect on some of the stories that you just did.
Okay.
Any of these pique your interest? You want to talk about?
Certainly, Afenyo will pick my interest.
Yeah.
And I think you were spot on. But to be fair to Afenyo, he is a smart politician. You know, the way the politician thinks, all news is good news, whether bad or whether
no bad
good publicity.
Yeah. Bad publicity.
Still publicity.
Yeah, and you can clearly see his agenda. He's practically not the face of the new patriotic party. But having said that, the way, at least, Afenyo was 1 year behind us.
Yes.
He's been doing business for a long time. And you see, when you go into the life of every businessman, they're always debt. Because it's essentially, financing is either debt or equity. And for me, I was surprised this matter came up. But you are spot on. Because of the way, so then people would dig and bring issues which shouldn't really be too critical. Because once the debts were procured genuinely, it could go bad, but really, how does that impact him as the minority?
So there are two quick sides to this. One, you know that if you've done business and not honored certain payments and all that, there are some positions even that you can't hold.
So that's
boards and certain. That is one angle to it. So let's not act as though it were
if you
okay
go
to do some of this.
If you go bankrupt.
If you go bankrupt, all of these are. But at the same time, to be fair to Afenyo Market, this is an old issue.
Yeah.
What he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a dried, dusted issue. And people have brought it up as though it were current. You get it?
Yeah.
But then it feeds back into what
he
said, that when you rattle a saber for a long time, people will look for another saber to rattle back at you.
But I'm sure he's in his room smiling all the way. As me, because he's in the news almost every
day now.
And everybody knows Afenyo. So, and I think what other, apart from the Afenyo issue,
there's Mahama
proposes, So, you see, this issue of...
By the way, as you go on, there's a planning committee for that as well. Sweetie Amachi, there's a planning committee on... I'm being mischievous here. So it says,
committee.
President Mahama stated that a planning committee consisting of religious leaders would soon be established to oversee the arrangements for the proposed National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving.
More biscuit than tea,
More
biscuit than you see, that's something that need to stop in this country. As in, this issue of petty issues, Jubilee House, then after 4 years it becomes what's called Flagstaff House. 1st July holiday, after it becomes, listen, we need to, because we are one people, you understand? We need to agree on what our holidays are. We need to stop this issue of MPP about, so right now, suddenly Flagstaff House name will change to and understand that, listen, we are one people, and there must be clarity about what some petty issues are, about what our holidays are, what name we give to state monuments. Instead of it being, it's like, you see, we are sitting down, we are allowing the politicians, the partisan politicians, to split our country. It doesn't mean we have two Ghana, NPP Ghana, NDC Ghana. We have just one Ghana. And so that's impression. So as much as I agree with you that the July 1st, really, if you are talking about holidays, one of the most important days in the history of this country. It's certainly July 1st.
Republic.
It's certainly, so we should find a way of agreeing on what our important anniversary days are and stop that issue of MPP comes in, suddenly August 4th becomes
September 25th.
becomes this and understand that, listen, we are building one country, not two countries. We refuse to become two countries. It's just one country, one Ghana.
What that even does is it digs some holes in our history. What happened?
Yeah.
What is the importance of July 1st as a public holiday? And why do we need to be making changes? The same thing about the Flagstaff House, and the Jubilee House, so that we know that this is Ghana. Our foundation is rooted in history, and that's the end of it.
Exactly.
Not every administration comes and their own, interpretation of what is supposed to be, and just keep going down in this non-ending cycle.
Unnecessary.
But come to think of it, these are problems of the 2000s and the 2010s.
Yeah.
SHS 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It's a product of that. Jubilee House, Flagstaff House. It's a problem of all these, some of these pettiness and holiday today. Because prior to that, July holiday was a holiday.
And it was this. Everybody
was
knew
this.
July 1st
Founders Day was Founders Day. Well, I don't know. From the 2000s and the 2010s, that is where we've had all of these.
The country is, we should say bluntly, we are in a nosedive. I'm telling you. Because, even if you take the quality of our politicians, or at least what we started seeing the politics, let's say in the 90s, and in those days, the idea was at least I'm going to take power to serve. You understand? Right now, it's not about service. We should say bluntly, it's not about service. It's about how is my pocket.
And I was about to say, it's about how they come. So they come riding on, a lot of them come riding on money. And the danger is we don't even know who funds them. I mean, there have been people who have participated in primaries who have told me, and I'll never mention it.
You should. No, you should not.
But who have told me, I spent X millions of cedis. And I look at the person prior to coming into politics and what role they play, and these sums of money, it doesn't match up. But they have this kind of money. People on election day give out millions. Where do they get that kind of money from? And if they are giving out millions to delegates to vote for them,
imagine
when they come in, what do you think? We have serious problems.
No, we have serious problems.
The next paper, the Finder, the new Finder, I think.
Yes, this is the new Finder.
Okay, I think, industry watchers optimistic about BOG governor appointment. Then President Mahama pledges jobs, infrastructure and healthcare for Central Region. The Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection pledges to improve school feeding program. Let me see, page 2.
So which page are you trying to get
to?
Page 2.
My cognitive. Thanks. So he says the appointment of Dr. Johnson Isiama as the new governor of the Bank of Ghana has been met with widespread optimism from industry players and financial experts. Mr. Isiama's wealth of experience in both the private and public sector has given many renewed hope. His leadership will chart a new course for the central bank, ensuring a more resilient financial ecosystem in Ghana. Some key figures in the financial and academic sectors have shared their thoughts on his appointments, lauding Dr. Isiama's credentials, potential empowering countries, monetary policy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So my view on, personally, I don't know. So, but the position he's going to hold is really, really critical in the sense that, you see, when you define what an economy is essentially being the state of every country in terms of its production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. And understanding that the role government plays in the economy is one in the fiscal policy and in the monetary policy. The fact that the head of the Bank of Ghana is essentially going to control one of the key arms of the role government plays, the monetary policy. And also when we reflect on one of the key poisons that impacted the economy the last time, we don't talk about it enough, but that the extent of the printing of money. Because that's poisoning. When you print, it's a no-no when it comes to, you don't print money into your system. The fact that the last regime, more than 60 billion cedis was spread into the economy, and that is the cause of the radical inflation we saw. So then what it means that whoever you are going to appoint to hold, to wield that power in terms of and impact your economy must be somebody who is really up there. Yeah, understand? And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm happy that industry watchers are optimistic, because also one of the key things that impact every economy is the trust and belief players in the economy have in people who hold key positions. I pray that when he comes, he'll deal with that printing of money issue. Is because that's what killed our economy the last time. That's 60 about 60 billion Ghana cedis that was printed into the system. You make it practically impossible for private sector to try. If you are printing, you are just printing money into the system.
I'm curious to know who these industry watchers are, because not everyone is as excited about his position and even assuming office. I think we caught wind beginning of this week that Minority Leader Alexander Penyomake was saying that he shouldn't assume work yet because the National Council, what's it called? Council of State have not yet approved his nomination. So there were so many. So
it comes back to what we're talking about. So don't even play politics with something as critical as this. But you see, one of the key. So it was a former MD of CarBank, and that's a key player. Obviously, somebody who former MD of CarBank will certainly understand. So there is a former MD of CarBank, and a respected figure in Ghana's banking industry. Frank Edu is very optimistic. Okay. So you see, you can play your politics. But there are some areas you don't play politics because they deal with the bread and butter issues of our society. So when it comes to these issues, I'd rather listen to somebody like Frank Edu than the Minority Leader whose focus is to play politics once again with this. So you are politicians. Play your politics. But play your politics at the right time, not with critical issues like who becomes the what's called the governor. Because what the power he's wielding is really critical. Because if you think that, like I'm saying, the role government plays in every economy is either in the fiscal policy or in the monetary. The fiscal policy is held by the president through his finance minister. Bank of Ghana governor deals with the monetary policy. Right. So it's not something that you should be playing petty politics with.
But just to be clear, he didn't raise any concerns about the competencies of this man. Just that the timing, whether or not he should assume office.
And the fact that he was facing some trial. You are in Ghana, our principle is that you are innocent until proven so. That's the principle.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, Dr. Richmond Etiahene threw this matter away. He said it was a non-issue. But at the same time, as students of the law, you always want to ensure that the right things, just as we said with the SIC issue. Dr. Etiahene thinks it is a non-issue, but at the same time, are the right structures being followed? And could we do better? I always see these things as tests to how the system runs and how it ought to run, so that in the end, okay, this has been done in the past, but can we tweak it further and ensure that everything is, so that you don't have problems? So
I think that last thing I want to talk about is the President Obama pledges jobs, infrastructure, and healthcare for Central Region. And I think that pledge is to the whole country. And it's at the core of the 24 hour, I wanted to make it 25, the 24-hour economy. Fantastic idea, fantastic vision. I think, once again, it's right. History has taught us that countries who have built their economies and have created jobs have done that on the back of one, industrialization, agribusiness, but also deliberately strengthen their small and medium scale enterprises. And I always want to make reference to history. Because, you see, one thing history taught us, as in the period between 1929 and 1945, right after the Great Depression, where the economies of Western Europe and America was destroyed, came the Second World War. So for close to 15 years, the world economy died. How did they resurrect it? In America, President Eisenhower resurrected it by the creation of the Small Business Act, which created the small business agencies. So in America, they deliberately, and they've decentralized it. So when you go to every district, they always have a small business agency. And what they do is that they identify, or you can work there. So when they build your business up in terms of your corporate structures, your corporate governance structures, and also actually give you money. Because money is the air that every business... So President Mama, nice idea, but it's right that you can only do this if you deliberately build your SMEs. So by now, I want to see, because you have a situation where I think over 90% of all the businesses in this country are informal. The government do not even know them. So we have to find a way of formalizing them. We have to find a way of identifying and building the SMEs up. We have to find a way of using the monetary policy or fiscal policy to give concessionary loans to these SMEs. Once we do that, then the jobs and all these things will come naturally.
Let me quickly browse through the Ghanaian Publisher. I fully paid all business debt. Afinyo Market says that we've looked at it. I won't run away. Baba Sam replies, ex-partner. Yes, your daughter.
Who's the Baba Sam?
There she is. A handsome couple. The man is a businessman of sorts, from what I hear, and a child in between, and the fear that she will travel, and maybe, per claims, some groups in the police being used to secure a warrant for her arrest, and then claims that, and now the court has quashed. The court has quashed that, and all of that. And she says, "I won't run away." You should get into the details. KGL honors Otumfuo with mental health facility, and Mahama proposes July 1 as National Prayer Day. Yakubu Tali resigns as ADB MD. I'm not getting into the stories. I just saw other headlines. Chaos probe committee to resume hearing today, and I'm talking about the one in Parliament. No government funds used for Hajj fare reduction. So they say the 13K that has been shaved off, there were no government funds used. So the figure it was at initially, no. Why was it pegged there?
But they should tell us the fund. What fund? We want it to know.
Gentlemen, this is where we are going to have to show it out.
Yeah, that's what.
And look forward to my blunt thoughts later on the show, not immediately after our big stories, because I'll be serving you some of the very things you need to know, whether it's about the committees that have been set up under John Mahama and what they are doing and other critical matters. You want to stay for that after the big stories. But for now,
yes, those who join us for the conversation, Andrew Appiah Danquah is spokesperson for Movements for Change, and Kwame Nkrumah Botsio is General Secretary for the CPP. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining
I must add,
and
our viewers can't see, but I love your sneakers.
Wow. Are they easy?
Should I describe them?
No.
But please stay. Just a second. Please stay for sports, because we have a special package for you. Haruna Mumbarak brings you the inspiring story of Ghana's first female world champion in boxing. I'm talking about Abigail Korte. Please enjoy that story. This is still the AM show on Joy News. I hope you're having a good Friday. Let's talk about smoke-free campaign from the FDA, because they've embarked on a sensitization campaign to keep a smoke-free environment. And joining me in studio for this conversation is Jemima Odonko, and she's head of tobacco and tobacco products at the FDA. Jemima, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
How are you?
Happy to be back.
Yeah.
Very well, thank you.
That's great. Last time we spoke about smoke-free campaigns, and I learned something from you, that the rules don't apply to marijuana. It was just tobacco, so cigarettes and those tobacco-related products that these smoke-free policies talk about without marijuana. I'm hoping to learn something else from you today, but tell me, what's new from the FDA?
So thank you very much, and good morning to your audience. As I said, I'm happy to be back here. The last time we came, we spoke about the need for a smoke-free environment.
Yep.
And the smoke here is a reference to smoke from the burning end of tobacco and tobacco products, as well as, yes. So basically that's,
okay.
So why the need for smoke-free environments? Research has shown that tobacco products itself contains a lot of toxicants, about which we have found 50 of these toxicants to be carcinogenic. That is, they cause cancer, exactly. And if you look at the population of smokers in Ghana, we have just about 5% of the population smoking, with the 95% of us not smoking. However, if you don't smoke and you find yourself within a space where smoking is actively ongoing, you are equally exposed to the dangers in the use of the tobacco products. So the need for this campaign.
Right. So the campaign is no smoke campaign or smoke-free environment. What's the name of the campaign? To
enforce the regulations as part of our mandates, the Part 6 of the Public Health Act, that is on tobacco control measures, bans smoking in public spaces.
Yes.
So smoking is not allowed in public spaces.
That is a policy?
Yes, that's a policy.
Okay.
instances where facility allows smoking, it is the absolute responsibility of the facility manager to designate an area solely for that.
Yeah.
And that is to prevent the smoke that comes out of the burning end of the smoke, or the smoke that is puffed out by the smoker to interfere or affect other people who do not smoke.
Okay. So just for clarity, to be sure I'm following what you're saying, we have the smoke-free policy, which bans smoking in public areas.
Very true.
Except facility managers have demarcated a special place where you can go and smoke there.
Yes.
So that's the policy that you're trying to reinforce, right? But what's the name of the campaign that you're currently...
It's a smoke-free policy.
Okay,
yes,
so it's the same policy that you're campaigning so that you can sensitize us on what it entails, the dangers.
Second-hand smoking.
Okay,
so
and all
you might say, I don't smoke. However, you find yourself within areas where people actively smoke. So you are equally exposed to the toxicants, the chemicals that comes out of the tobacco itself. And that is quite harmful to the human system.
Okay.
So the need for this campaign.
What do you think are the challenges that you encounter in enforcing this policy?
For the challenges, they are quite numerous. One of them is ignorance from the part of the facility managers and not just the managers, the population. There's so much when it comes to these policies. Even though you have the right to smoke, because smoking is not illegal in Ghana, however, there are regulations to smoking. You can't smoke anywhere in the open space. All public spaces are smoke-free areas. And so it is
You mean by public places everywhere? The beach, the club, in your house, the backyard?
Your house is your private space.
Right.
However, the moment you allow other activities to happen within your space, if a party is happening in your home, it becomes a public space. Yes.
Okay.
So then you cannot allow smoking. So what the law requires is that if you want to, if your facility manager permits smoking, as I said, it is up to the manager to create a DSA, and there are requirements for discretion. The DSA should be positioned in such a way that smoke from within that space should not seep into areas where non-smoking activities do take place. So when you go to a restaurant and that facility allows smoking, you cannot create your DSA close to the entrance to the restaurant. You cannot create your DSA close to the swimming pool, because the pool is a public space where people do engage in other activity. You cannot create your DSA within the parking lot, because that is a public area. So this DSA should be positioned in such a way that smoke from within that space would not seep into areas where smoking do not take place. And the law also requires that if you allow smoking, your DSA should be solely be meant for smoking activity. Nothing else can happen there. You cannot ask workers within your facility to offer any service within that space.
Wow.
Yes.
So even if you've demarcated a place for smoking, your workers, those, the waiters and waitresses, they cannot serve you there.
Food there. They cannot do
that doesn't happen.
There. And that is to also protect the workers, because they also have the right to quality life. Exactly. So the law is clear on that. So for some of the challenges, you go to facilities and they will tell you, oh, I don't have an idea of what these laws are. And then also it is the mandate of the facility owner to post the no smoking signages everywhere, especially within the entrance. It should be prominently placed so that whoever walks in there would know that this zone or this area is a no smoking area. So failure to do that is an infraction on the law, and it is punishable by,
Okay. And thank you for bringing us that clarity on what really the law says. How can we help? You mentioned that the challenge is the lack of awareness on the part of the public, and even sometimes facility operators and managers. How can we help? By we, not just the media, but other citizens who are aware of this policy. How can we help?
Thank you for that. So as citizens, you should be mindful of your environments. So when you find yourself in a space where you find active smoking, the right thing is to draw the attention of the facility manager. In cases where they are a bit recalcitrant, not ready to listen to your plea, you can reach out to the FDA any day, anytime. We have hotlines. We have
Let's put that out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in case where you find yourself in a compromised situation and you need to reach out to FDA, we have numbers you can reach us on. For the calls, you can call us on 055-111-2224, or you can WhatsApp us on 055-111-2225, as well as email us on fda@fda.gov.gh.
Okay.
For the offices, we have offices across the country, so you can walk into any of our offices if you are close by. And then we would also appreciate it if you can get some form of evidence, because smoking is done within a period. You might think, okay, we went to this facility, we find people smoking. If you come with some form of evidence, it would really help us to go back to reinforce the tobacco control measures.
Okay.
But if it's just by hearsay, sometimes it's difficult to examine.
So apart from this smoke-free campaign from the FDA, are there other institutions or agencies championing this cause? Are you the only ones? Is it the FDA alone that's trying to enforce this policy?
It's an agency under the Ministry of Health, so we do a lot of collaboration with our mother agency.
Okay.
We have the CSOs who are out there too. We work with the Ghana Police Service when it comes to the reinforcement of. We work with a lot of security agencies across the borders, because most of these tobacco products are snaking into the country through some of these unchecked borders. So yes, we work with quite a number of people, agencies that help in the enforcement of these.
Before we go, what are the punitive measures for flouting this law?
So if you are found to be flouting any of these regulations, you can be administratively fined. Yeah, there are charges to some
How
of
much?
these. It depends on the gravity, from as low as maybe 5,000 to, it depends. So
you said as low as 5,000 Ghana cedis? If you're caught smoking in a public space?
If you are caught smoking in a public space, yes, I think if 5,000. If you are caught trading in illicit tobacco products, I think that is quite punitive. You pay about, is it 25,000 cedis, and in failure to pay would lead to your prosecution, yes, which we do quite
Please find a better use for your 5,000 and above, and don't smoke in public spaces. But last question before you go, I want you to reiterate the danger of secondhand smoking, so that those who can actually take up the fight can do that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So as I said, tobacco has been, research has shown that tobacco contains a lot of toxic compounds, and about 50 to 70 of them are found to be carcinogenic.
Yeah.
And then the smoke that comes out of the tobacco contains all of these toxicants. So we encourage smokers to smoke responsibly. If you want to smoke, locate a DSA, a properly designated area, and then smoke in your closet. Don't endanger the lives of the vulnerable, the innocent ones out there, those of us who are not ready to expose ourselves to this smoke. There is no safe limits for the exposure to the tobacco smoke. So we ask that if you can quit smoking, it is not safe, it is toxic, and it is harmful to the human system.
Jemima, thank you so much for coming.
Much.
How long are you running this campaign for?
It's part of the work we do, but this is to reinforce an already existing law.
Right.
So it's going to be, so as long as we want people to comply. So it's part of the mandate.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Folks,
you.
there you have it. Don't smoke in public spaces or else you'll be fined, please. And protect the young and vulnerable so that they don't become second-hand smokers. Jemima Odonkor is head for tobacco and tobacco products at the FDA, and she joins us on the No Smoke policy or No Smoke campaign, trying to create awareness on why you should not smoke in public spaces. Stay with us because there's still so much coming your way. We have our big stories, we have Benjamin Akakpo's blunt thoughts, and of course we have E-Corner with Noella. We'll be right back.
Welcome back on the AM show. Now, if you were alive in 1983, which I was, you would have heard of that tumultuous event which saw about 1 million Ghanaians exiting, being pushed out of Nigeria. Nigeria struggling with its own issues, economic, corruption-related, and a disgruntled population under President Shehu Shagari. Well, that led to this mass migration. But there is this new docu that we're going to be airing at the Silverbird Cinema come the 28th of February, moving on from there. And it's titled Omogana, Man for Chop. Man for Chop, no few. But joining me in the studio to discuss this, Kwame Bwedi. He's executive producer, director. Kwame, good morning.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Why this idea, Omogana, Man for Chop? Where did it come from?
Good one. So, you know, 83, like you said, there's portions of 2 million West Africans from Nigeria, of which 1 million were Ghanaians. At the time, our population was like 10 million. So close to 10% of Ghanaians were sent back. And this was a time when we had drought and all that. So the idea to do this, 2023, a group of academics, Dr. Akusua, Dakwa, Geraldine Ampa, doctors, all of...
Geraldine Adiku.
Exactly, they teach sociology and so on. Legon, Faisal, Gaba, and a few others. And Franca, Mariando, they put together a series of talks to commemorate the event. Franca invited me to one such at a place at the airport. And
I did. I attended that event as well,
exactly.
at Kappa Cappuccino.
Exactly.
Right.
So I sat there. I think I left earlier than usual because I had another meeting. But the following morning, I had a light bulb. I said, oh, but this... Because some of us were alive then. You know, you were asking. And it's, like you said, it was very tumultuous, very chaotic period.
In fact, my family had lived in Nigeria from the late 70s, thereabouts, mid to late 70s, and even at that time. So
you're an Agege man. You're returning yourself. You know. So and so we said, why should commemoration, just a few talks and speeches, and it will die out because there are lots of people who don't know what's happening. You know, migration is so topical.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we do a documentary?
And speaking of that documentary, I just want us to quickly look at the trailer, and then we shall come back into the studio. I want you to watch this.
Ààrẹ, kárìn ká pọ̀ síbẹ̀síbẹ̀, igi kan kì í dágbó ṣe, ara kì í sá fún ara.
It's 1983. President Shehu Shagari of Nigeria has ordered for the deportation of undocumented migrants.
Most of the people to be affected are West Africans, our brothers and sisters, especially from Ghana.
Have you so soon forgotten about 1969? When they got rid of us like rats from their country?
Migrants are human beings. How about that?
Where are you coming from? Nationality!
Oh, Ghana.
Omo Ghana. Calm down.
My brother.
Who are your brothers?
The idea that national boundaries should be borders have to be done away with. Instead, we have to think of them as bridges.
We have to humanize migrants.
We have relatives, we have friends who are migrants, and we ourselves might in future be migrants as well.
Now, what's interesting, there was the Deportation Act, briefly, under Nkrumah, but to a major extent, 1969, under K.A. Buzia. And you would see that reference being made in the play.
Exactly.
Interesting dynamics in there. But with the 1 million or so people that were forced to leave, I mean, you've spoken about the genesis of creating or fashioning this story. How were you able to tap into it historically?
Ooh, I mean, like I said, some of us were old enough. So for me, it was a living.
You saw some of it?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, when they were coming, bars in articulated trucks and the Toyota Haze, and some of them in the trucks, they'll be carrying their mattresses. I mean, they're standing in articulated trucks, come together like a herd of cattle, sorry, and they're carrying their mattresses. Can you imagine? It was just a crazy thing at the borders and all that. So it was easy to research. And I'm happy you mentioned the alliance compliance of that and so on. So, some said it was tit for tat, but it has present-day parallels. You know, it's a political thing. The politicians in all the countries, I don't want to mention which country, you know, tend to use migrants as scapegoats. You know, so when there's a trouble and then the nationalists come out and they say, well, it's the foreigners who are causing it, so let's sack them, let's get them out of here. But research has shown that indeed migrants bring a net positive to their host countries. Now, but you see, so I'm very well researched because we were privileged to work with academics. I've mentioned Dr. Kosia Dakwa, Geraldine, Faisal, Gamali Choduro, Nadine Soa Choduro. They are all executive producers here. Because they started this thing, because they organized those commemorations. And they are sociologists, psychologists, but most of them specialize in migration. So
why is it important to commemorate? Why is it important to remember these things? No, we're talking of 1983. We're in 2025.
Because it's still alive. Nothing has changed. These days they have this Yoruba term, it's actually in the Oxford Dictionary recently. You for Jakpa. You know, everybody's living. You know, we go through the Sahara Desert, we go through the oceans and get drowned and keep on going. It hasn't changed. It won't change because migration is as old as Adam. I mean, ever since from the hunter-gatherers and so on. In fact, that is how nations have been formed. The United States of America is great because of its cultural diversity. Because of all the Europeans and Africans and Latinos who have gone there and brought their diverse culture and talent and so on. And so people will move.
Regardless of what happens.
Yeah, and again, there's an interesting fact. People think that migration is only south-north, from the poor to the... But actually, greater migration happens south-south.
Right.
Exactly. So migration happens, and you have rural, urban migration, and so on.
And when you say south-south, you're talking of the global economic south.
Exactly. So people, like we moved to Nigeria.
Yeah.
And you say Nigerians also come here, and so on. So that happens more than from here to Europe and from here to North America and so on.
What is interesting is that if you look at the trends from the 1990s to now, the migratory figures have remained stable.
Exactly.
So 2.9%, now 3.3%, which means that migration is going on anyway. But the interesting question then is, how do we benefit from this as Ghanaians?
Indeed,
before we segue back to the story.
Thank you, Ben. Actually, that is the reason why we've done this. There's an important document, an agreement by the UN called Global Compact for Migration. I would advise everybody to go read it. Because in there, they agree that indeed migration is a good thing. Because just before we came in here, I was telling you about our case. Let's use our case of people living, and let's use our nurses. When people say nurses are living, they are leaving Ghana and going to UK and so on. Yet we also hear that nurses, when they complete, do not get employment. Some of them stay for 2-3 years. What that tells me is that, so it means we have a comparative advantage. We can grow people, we can grow talent, we can grow skills here. So why don't we be more deliberate about it? Let's find a way to educate people so that the talents who are needed elsewhere can go. We know they send money back home. 4 billion, 5 billion per annum. It's more than any of those so-called development partners send to us. So indeed, if we are very deliberate about migration, they say knowledge is power. If we teach our people where they are needed, if we are very measured and scientific about it, we can well benefit from the jackpine.
And we see countries that have. I've lived in Cuba for a while, and they have done that over the period. I mean, in some cases, teachers, if you remember from the 50s and the embargo and what they did to shore up their economy, but especially with medical staff.
Exactly.
And Ghana has benefited quite a bit from doctors and others from Cuba.
Yeah. The Jamaicans also have the same policy. So it's not new. So it's something, and in Ghana, we like school. So we tend to have a lot of talent. We're everywhere in the world and so on. So let's tap into that. This is say plug into that and be deliberate about it, so that we will become a hub for education, for health and so on. And the money that we get. And we train the people and they go. So as we train them, we must find a way to make sure they pay back. And then we use that to grow our institutions. And then, but we're not saying everybody should go, because for some people, migration is not a good thing. That's why you got to scan and be sure. Some people, when I hear somebody say, I paid $20,000 to a visa contractor, I say, wow, that you don't need to go to Abuchi.
If you have $20,000.
If you can save, because where you're going in Europe is very difficult. Even the upper middle class and so on, you won't get $20,000 in somebody's account. They actually have zilch. They just live on credit cards. So for some people, they are creative and they must be here. But for some people, they must go out to sell their talents. They must go out to educate themselves, because we know that when you want to specialize in some areas, it's better to go there for experience, for cultural exchange. It's all good. So we must be a bit more nuanced about it. So we want the discourse. So this is not just a film that you watch and go away. That's why we have the academics on board. We intend that we do lots of Q&As, and fortunately we have multimedia on board. You know, you guys, it's your philosophy as well to make things happen, to be progressive. So we intend to be do interviews like this, do Q&As when we screen. We intend to screen in the universities, in the secondary schools, and have this conversation. So that maybe we need to water our grass to be greener, because some of the grass is not greener elsewhere. But for some people, migration can be slavery.
It's said that if you look into your neighbor's house and see that the grass is greener, ask him or her about his or her water bill.
Thank you very much.
So if the grass is greener, someone is watering more. Just tell us finally, it's airing at the Silverbird Cinema. Exactly. Give us the times, give us when it is airing, the period, and what people can expect finally.
Exactly. So it's premiering on the 28th. And so the red carpet is at 6 p.m., but the screen will be 7 p.m. So 7 p.m., 9 p.m. on the 28th, and every day for 2 weeks.
Red carpet at 6. It's airing at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. on the 28th of February.
28th, and then 2 weeks thereafter, every 7 p.m., 9 p.m. So red carpet at 6 means that if you want to work on the red carpet and take the pictures and things, come early. And you can find the pictures at the Silverbird website and so on. And because we are dealing with you, we'll be promoting, we'll be sending all the notices and social media and so on. So those who are interested, you can buy your tickets in advance as usual. Thereafter, we go to Kumasi. To Golden Eagle to show. And then we are very interested in teaching the youth, talking to the youth. So we're going to the universities and the screens. There we screen for free.
I see. Interesting. We have Francis. He says, I'm watching you live at a workshop. That's good. It's good to know that even while you're working, you're watching us. But thank you so much for joining the conversation. And of course, we are fully in support of this. They say if you don't know your past, you have no future. So thank you for this industrious historical enterprise. That is Kwame Bwedi. He's executive director and producer for Omogana, Man for Chop. As my uncle KSM would say, look of you, But before we take a breather and come through with our big stories, Medicas Hospital is a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind. They have spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind, and they have also assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine led by Dr. Yawasafo, the drive time doctor, to serve you. Here's what they have on offer. General medical services and specialist services as well, such as plastic surgery, obstetrics, gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. And in addition, they offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. And they have a 24-hour pharmacy ensuring you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicine. They also bring to you the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. And they take pride in holding themselves to the highest attainable standards. They also accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. Now, all you have to do, make a beeline, find your way to Medicas Hospital at number 10 Kincho Street near the Ashaleboche School Junction. If you'd like to call them, you can reach them on this number, 0501 477 340. Or reach them on social media at Medicas GH. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. Do stay with us when we return. There's more coming your way from Sweetie Abochi and Babatunde. We'll be right back.
And this is the big story segment on the AM show. And we're taking a look at Ghana's cocoa revenue that stands at $1.7 billion, recording an all-time low in 15 years, with dwindling production and existential threats of galamsey cited as major causes. Let's unpack the issues right here in the studio as we engage our data analyst, Isaac Kofi Ejay, in the studio right now with us to set it rolling. Isaac, what's happening to the cocoa industry?
Well, today the big story came with a big drop, and that big drop is on the Smart World, Ghana's cocoa revenue, export revenue. We can all agree that cocoa revenue actually is the main backbone of the Ghanaian economy. Why do I say so? If you look at our three top exchange rate earners, you talk about gold, you talk about oil, and talk about cocoa. It is only cocoa that we can beat our chest and say that we get more than 90% of whatever we export. In 2024, we exported more than $11 billion worth of gold, but we all know that we only got about 15%. Same with oil. But for cocoa, whatever we get is ours. And so when there's a drop, we should be concerned because this is the main source that helps with the stability of the city.
Even before you proceed, what are we doing right? That's the only one that looks like we have majority of the
Absolutely.
share. What are we doing right?
I think it's the regulation. I think that's the same thing that the current government wants to do with gold. That's why they are setting up the gold board. So you have cocoa board and gold board. So cocoa board is supposed to regulate the presence of gold, cocoa in the system, and then gold also for go from the small scale mining and also maybe large scale.
Right.
Now that is the drop you see on the wall. In 2023, we were looking at somewhere $2.1 billion. Now it has dropped to $1.7 billion. And we remember that I think somewhere October, we made a projection that looking at where we were by August, it was impossible to reach that threshold of $2 billion every year. And it was right. We ended 2024 with just $1.7 billion. I think that this trend analysis tells a story proper, how we have reduced from as high as $2.8 billion in 2021 to somewhere $1.7 billion in 2024. You can see that this sends us back to a 15-year low to somewhere $1.49 billion that we saw in 2008 and 2009. Now we are back to that level, and that tells you that there is something really wrong. I'll show you one graph that shows...
And Kofi, you can just look at the impact there. If you look at the difference, that high in 2021 and where we are now, 1.7 billion, that's a deficit of 1.1 billion.
It's gone. Yeah.
Imagine what impact that will have on our economy.
That's more than think half of what we are even requesting from the IMF. And we've spoken a lot about some other foreign exchange earners that if we pay attention to, we might not be going to the IMF almost every 4 years. We've spoken about remittances, for instance, and cocoa export revenue, because that is the mainstay of the Ghanaian economy. And when there's a drop, I think we should all be worried. Now, this is the source. This is the reason why we are seeing the significant drop in export revenue. Definitely, when you have production falling, you don't expect to be getting the same amount that you used to get. And remember that last year was the year that cocoa had one of its highest prices on the global perspective, where prices went as high as, I think, $11,000 per ton.
Yeah.
But we could not cash out around that time because we had done what we call the forward sales. So we had even sold the cocoa that we had not even harvested.
The syndicated loan.
Absolutely. And when you do that, it means that whatever that goes on in the world market, you are blind to that. You don't participate in that. And we've seen that 2024 in this year, this is the lowest we've actually had in terms of the production. Somewhere 550,000 tons in 2025. Compare that to what we saw in 2021, 2020. Over 1 million tons that we produced in that year. Why so? Now we begin to bring in the key factors. Smuggling is one of them. For instance, last season we saw smuggling taking away some 150,000 tons. Was smuggled out of the country. Imagine we were able to add that. We could get to somewhere 600.
And then you must also look at why people are smuggling.
Exactly.
Because then that comes into...
Absolutely. Because of the gap in what Cocoa Board is offering and what the black market is also offering. So definitely if there's a cocoa farmer who, I mean, if Cocoa Board is granting that person 3,000 cedis per bag and they can sell it for 5,000 cedis, definitely you should know that they will go for that alternative.
It's criminal, but they would.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Now, the reason why we saw the high, production in 2020 and 2021 was because this was the COVID period. And remember that the COVID period was when we closed most of our land borders. So it was almost impossible to do anything smuggling, right? And around that time too, you did not have illegal miners going on site. Galamseyers were also taking some leave. They were on holidays.
Yeah.
So it means that the cocoa space had a breathing space around that time. That is why we were able to record that high figure. Of course, the government also did some fumigation exercises, also helping the farmers in a certain way. But predominantly...
So maybe that is something else we ought to look at. But if you look at the trend from that high of 1 million, mind you, in 2017, 2018, we had over 900,000. In fact, previously, we had hit something around 800,000 before. But then it's a clear trajectory. Look, from 1 million, you fall to 683,000. That's a deficit of about 320,000, almost.
Yeah.
Then you fall further, 654. So the decline has been steady.
And very, very sharp. And this was a period that, according to the president, he put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey. And definitely the cocoa sector actually benefited. But we've all seen that in his second term, I mean, the fight against Galamsey wasn't that as, exactly as his first term. So definitely that is one key factor that you cannot take out. Galamsey is a big thing. And you can see that even between Ghana and Ivory Coast, the two countries, the two neighbors, account for more than 60% of the global production of cocoa. And so last year and even this year, I mean, when chocolate prices are rising, this is Valentine's season, chocolates is the main, the main product. And we know that when cocoa is struggling, when you're buying the chocolate for your girlfriends and other, I mean, it will be an expensive price. And boyfriends, It will be expensive. And it's because the cocoa sector is struggling.
Right.
Now, I spent some time in, I think about 3 villages in the Ashanti region around the Lake Bosomchi during the Christmas period. And you see, Ben spoke about pricing, right? Where some cocoa farmers had sold their cocoa beans and waiting for government to make the payment. And the cocoa cratchers will go to the district capitals like, Bekwai. And when they come back, they'll come and tell, oh, I'm buying it into ya. Right? So they were waiting for that money to, have some good Christmas celebration when they were not getting. Imagine this farmer is told that, look, there is a buyer nearby who is willing to sell it to you, to buy at, let's say, 4,000 or 5,000 Ghana cedis per bag. I'm not sure that they will sell to the cocoa cratcher who will then go and sell to Cocoa Board in the district capitals. And so you see that even when we are all falling, Ivory Coast is still able to fall or still able to produce above 1 million tons a year. And we have gone...
Apart from 2020, 2021.
When we were
actually...
In fact, exactly. We were the leading producer. Now we make it big and say the two of us contribute 60% of the world's production. But if you disaggregate it, you realize that our contribution is just roughly around 14%.
Right.
The remaining over 45% goes to Ivory Coast. And it means that we are gradually losing our power as a key powerhouse for cocoa production. And when we...
In fact, it's interesting to note, Kofi, the steady trajectory of, the graph over there means they're doing something consistently every time. Whereas we go up, we dip, we come back up again, and it looks like we are going down a dip. So they have been able to sustain what they've been doing for some time now. What's interesting about that?
I think it's regulation. What the intelligence we are gathering from Ivory Coast is that they do not have such, 100% regulated system like we have. So it's a bit flexible in Côte d'Ivoire, and they've actually placed a lot of premium on cocoa production. And mind you, we have a peculiar situation that they don't have, illegal mining.
Yeah.
It's not as dire in Ivory Coast like it is in Ghana, where you have key regions that are cocoa producing regions like the Ashanti region, Western region, Central region, Ahafo, Western North. All the key regions that are the cocoa powerhouses are all battling with illegal mining. And we saw that cocoa farms had actually destroyed about, I think, 35,000 hectares of land, right? I mean, illegal mining. And we've seen, documentaries where people are crying and their farmlands have been taken over by illegal miners and all of that. There is that problem that we have that the Ivory Coast doesn't have. And so we will all be suffering from the swollen shoot disease, the bad weather conditions, the El Nino and what have you. But once you have a peculiar situation and you've not been able to deal with illegal mining, you will be producing below 1 million, tons, and they will still be able to produce above, that threshold.
But there's an interesting point, Kofi. And there was a time, I remember some of the data, it analyzed cocoa producers, including Latin America, all countries.
Yeah, remember that.
From, I think, the 1950s.
Exactly.
If you look at the trajectory, you'll see that Cote d'Ivoire has always been pretty consistent in terms of their production versus ours. You must also factor in the bit about political upheavals.
Exactly.
Periods of military interventions in politics and how they have affected our farming or agri-sector, including cocoa. But especially if you look at from the 1990s, 2000s, it appears while they have distanced themselves, because mind you, at a point Brazil was the biggest producer. Then Cote d'Ivoire came. Then, Ghana came into the picture. There are times where Ghana has been the topmost producer, including as recently as 2021. But it appears to be something systemic that we are not getting right, and which has made Cote d'Ivoire, like you said, when you disaggregate the data, 60%, but they are producing what?
Yeah.
Usually it's around 40%, but now, thanks to where we are, about 45%.
There is one other aspect that I think we should talk about, is the incentive to smuggle, where in Ivory Coast you have inflation around 3%. Our inflation went as high as 54% in 2022.
Yeah.
So if you pay the farmer, let's say around that time was 1,800 per bag or so, what is that farmer able to buy with that? The purchasing power for that farmer was very low, so they'll look for alternatives, right? And there's another aspect that talks about, the exchange rate situation, where in our case, it's actually worse, where, in any time the dollar is not really performing well, we see that everything in the economy also struggles. So that is some of the, I think, the fundamentals that Ivory Coast have had right that we have not. They've still been able to keep inflation within a single digit, bracket, where we are still struggling to even move below 20%. And so farmers there have a bigger purchasing power compared to our farmers here, right? And it is difficult. If the farmer even wants to build, the price of cement is skyrocketing, iron rods, almost everything is expensive. And so that farmer will farm all right, get all the money all right. You see the increments from government every year, but inflation is eating a big chunk of that farmer's purchasing power. And when there's an incentive to smuggle, they surely will bend.
Interesting picture. But what does the future look like?
I think that this is a future for me, because there seems to be a trade-off between gold and cocoa.
Indeed.
The more we are getting revenues from gold, the less we are getting from cocoa. And there is that relationship between the impact of illegal mining on cocoa production. And this graph tells it pretty well, where we've seen that we've climbed from somewhere $7 billion a year for gold to now $11.6 billion, revenue from gold. Cocoa, on the other hand, is declining. And there's that contrast, there's that, opposite relationship between the two of them. And the gap is widening. That tells you that as a country, maybe we are prioritizing gold above cocoa, but we should know that even the gold, it can be 12 billion, it can be 15 billion, but we only get a certain small component. Cocoa, even if it is 1 billion, we get more than 90% of that. And so if you're able to get more from cocoa, then that will be the assurance for the stability of the city. Because this gold, if you look at the Auditor General's report and you see the amount that is surrendered even to the Bank of Ghana,
right,
you will not even think that we should focus more on gold, because everything is exported and everything is taken away. And the amount even surrendered to the central bank, sometimes even less than $1 billion.
And I concur here that there's an even more interesting picture, which is why I would say we should focus more on cocoa, because the gold is there and we've not even renegotiated better deals with these global mining outfits. But there's an interesting trend we are not producing that much more gold. Ounces.
Yeah.
It is that the
price.
pricing has gone up. So we are not producing that much more. But at the same time, cocoa production is dwindling. So the gold has stabilized. If the price of gold falls, you come back to square one. But because your cocoa production is falling, also related to, or with that correlation with galamsey, you are killing the cocoa industry. And what you could have got, now you've lost a component of 1.1 billion on that, which is almost half what you are getting from the IMF. Do you see the dynamic?
I do.
You are not increasing gold production that much to say we are using it to catch up on what we are losing from cocoa. Yet you are impacting the cocoa industry with the same gold production. You are losing at both ends.
In fact, Ben, in 2022, when we saw the cedi moving from, I think somewhere 5 cedis or 6 cedis or 7 cedis to 15 cedis per dollar, right? One thing that helped the economy to stabilize a bit was the cocoa syndicated loan that came in around that time. And the other 750 million loan that we got from elsewhere. Now, this is how the syndicated loan is actually arranged. You need to go and get a lead arranger who will then go and look for the banks to come and invest and all of that. And when you are going, the assurance that they will be looking for, sweetie, is how much are you producing this year?
Yeah.
Now, I am sure they will be looking at this data and say, but how do we give Ghana over $1 billion, dollars when we are not even sure that they will be able to produce 500,000 tons?
Is that what happened last year? Because
the same thing happened last year, exactly. Last year, we were able to arrange for, I think, about somewhere around $600 million. But at the end of the day, more than 800 million, by the end of the day, we could not draw, I think, $200 million or so because we could not get the needed beans to assure the investors that, look, if you give us this money, we can produce. And they came out, international traders came out to say that just by trading with Ghana, they lost close to $1.4 billion. Why? Wow. Because, yes, they locked in the price at, let's say, $2,000 or $3,000. You're supposed to produce and provide the cocoa beans. You're not able to do that. What they do is that they would have to go to their inventories to supply the people that they also have arrangements with. And when they are restocking their inventories, if they restock, or if they had their inventories around $2,000 per ton and they are restocking, it will be at the prevailing price of, say, 11,000 or 10,000. So that is where the loss came from. And so this year, the reason why we are saying we are doing self-financing is simply because we could not get the needed beans to assure investors that we can produce. And because they know our situation, they place a very high coupon rate on the loans that they will give to us. That's rather unfortunate.
Thank you so much for putting in perspective Ghana's sinking cocoa export revenue, declining cocoa production in tons. That was a wonderful presentation. And Ben, of course, did a fantastic job. But we have to move on. And before we go, let me tell you about SolarMate Ghana. You want to select a solar system from our various solar packages, ranging from 30,000 cedis to 99,000 Ghana cedis. And all our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries. So get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar power station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. And we also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. Google SolarMate Ghana to find us both on Facebook and on Instagram, or simply contact us on 050-832-0470. SolarMate Ghana is located at Adringano, East Legon. SolarMate, we go everywhere.
We go everywhere, indeed. Interesting bits we
I thought you were going to tell us more, but I think it's time for us to take a break. Yeah. When we return, we'll bring you more. Benjamin Akakpo's Ben, what are you talking about?
I've titled it of Committees, Promises, Parliament, and Our Economy. Assessing the salient issues.
Okay, we can't wait. That comes up next. Stay on the AM show.
Welcome aboard. Welcome to my blunt thoughts. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, aka for today, Babatunde. And I've titled my blunt thoughts this morning of committees, promises, Parliament, and our economy, assessing the salient issues of committees that John Mahama has set up, promises, Parliament, and our economy, assessing the salient issues. Now, if you come to the slides with me this morning, there's been a lot of talk about, oh, there's this committee that has been set up, Gold Board 21, and all of that. And we're also hearing that July the 1st, Republic Day, which is also now going to be Senior Citizens Day, as we've had it in the past, and now that National Day of Prayer and Fasting, a committee is to be set up. Interesting bits in there. Not out of the ordinary, but of course, we have to ask questions about, okay, committee this, committee that. How long are they going to last? What is the cost that is going to come to us? And I'll start from here. So at least, and that doesn't factor in the one for the National Day of Prayer, at least 7 of these committees have been set up. What exactly are we looking at in terms of the 7? There's the Constitutional Review Committee headed by Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. There's the National Economic Dialogue, 7 people on that. So the number of members on the first one, Constitutional Review, 8. National Economic Dialogue, 7. Then you have the National Education Forum. Remember what we've been saying, Haruna Idrisu, and then the coming together to form that consensus on the way forward for our education. That's another 8. Then you look at the Gold Board Planning, that is 21. You look at ECG privatization, those looking into it, Mr. Jinapo and his colleagues, that's 7. Uncleared ECG containers, 5. And then we have the Petroleum Sector Review, that we don't have a number. If I just do the quick math, 8 to, so this is 15, 23, 44, 51, that's about 56 members, right? And sometime, at some point, we'll get into the cost details as and when we have them. But for now, you look at these committees being set up in respect of promises that have been made by the John Mahama administration. Now, there's the 120-day social contract, the promise that was made. That's 4 months, right? So that takes us what? January, February, March, April, sometime through April or the start of May. How many days are gone so far? We are looking at about 31, and the days left, 89. So how much work has been done in those 31 days? Promises made, 26 that have to be fulfilled within the 120-day window, the social contract. Promises fulfilled so far, 3. That leaves you with 23. But there are at least 4 promises underway as well. Not completed, but underway. If you add even those, that it gives you about 7. But for now, the disaggregation, 3 fulfilled, 4 plus en route, right? And those that would remain then would be 19 promises outstanding. Now, if you look at the time gap, 30, 31 versus 120, that leaves about 90 days or 89 days more. So still more time, but we have to hold the feet of government to the fire. And that takes me to Parliament. Honorable members, honorable, and sorry to say, sometimes their actions are very dishonorable or unhonorable. See members of Parliament coming in, first-timers, beginning to wheel chairs and the rest, and you ask yourself, but of course, they learned it from previous sessions or sittings of Parliament. Remember the 8th Parliament? Carlos Ahinkra became Usain Bolt, running away with ballot sheets and all of that. And we saw squabbles, sometimes very petty, in Parliament. We are teaching the young ones, and they are coming, and they are following in that stead. So those who initially were to be sanctioned, Roxanne Nelson Dapia Mekpo, Arnaud Dompré, so Majority Chief Whip, Minority Chief Whip, Jerry Shuaib, Second Deputy Minority Chief Whip. He's, of course, Member of Parliament for Wejagbawi. You have Alhassan Tampuli in there as well. And we all saw the roles they played. But it's crucial, important, moving away from who gets paid what, when, and how. The Speaker himself has been speaking, and he said, even members themselves, members of Parliament, don't take the appointments committees seriously. And I felt that was stark coming from the Speaker. He's the longest serving, member of Parliament, as far as I know, together with Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, who is no longer in Parliament. And now he's a Speaker. So if he says this, you know what they say? If that animal comes from the bottom of the pond to tell you that the crocodile is dead, you don't doubt it. You are not at the bottom of the pond. But he has been there. He also says parliamentary privilege does not and will never extend to lawlessness. Your parliamentary privileges end where the law is. Any member found culpable shall face the appropriate disciplinary measures as prescribed by the Constitution and Parliament's standing orders. So we have the standing orders. We have, look, an ordinary citizen, you would expect certain things of me. As an ordinary citizen, maybe a higher mark because I'm on TV and you have to watch what you do. But a member of Parliament, requirements in the Constitution and all that, and you get there and we see some of the actions we have seen, then you ask yourself, what's going on? But of course, it's also part of the money in our politics. So it becomes a moneycracy. And people get there on the back of having the funds to pay, including delegates. Now, then you move on to the energy minister on the Gold for Oil program briefly. We have to talk about our energy situation because, like it or not, we want to keep the lights on. The current Gold for Oil program we've inherited, we will discontinue it. That's the energy minister. There's a high level of opacity and the clarity is not there. The Auditor General has flagged it, so it's not just what we are saying, it is a fact. And the Auditor General is the same Auditor General we had a few years ago after Domilevo. He's the same person at Post. So what exactly is happening? On Gold for Oil, we were not provided with a formal agreement between the Bank of Ghana and PMMC for these transactions. So what was happening so far? It's not to say it's a bad thing altogether, but the devil is always in the detail, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. If there was no proper agreement, formal agreement, what was happening between the Bank of Ghana and the PMMC for these transactions? I'm only asking questions. As a result, we could not confirm salient terms of the engagement, including fees. And the devil is always here. Procurement, payments, fees, or commissions paid to PMMC for their services. How do we account for them? Then, on the same Gold for Oil program, there was no dedicated offshore bank account for the Gold for Oil program. We've spoken about ECG having so many accounts and the cash waterfall mechanism. How about this? No dedicated offshore bank account for the Gold for Oil program. So how were the transactions conducted? We need a probe into those. The main objective of the Gold for Oil program, now help me if you think we've achieved the goal for the Gold for Oil program. Increase gross international reserves. Now, in recent times, I have seen some billions that we have accrued in terms of gold reserves at the Bank of Ghana. So in that respect, or in that regard, you could say that, well, there have been some gains. The quantum of the gain vis-a-vis the losses of about 60 billion, that one, I'll not wade into that territory. But then you talk about reining in depreciation. Has the cedi's depreciation, been reined in that much? We're still hovering around 15 point something. So the effect from where I sit would not have been very well seen. Reduce fuel prices at the pumps. You don't need to be a soothsayer to realize that this one, it's not working. Now, average monthly cost of oil imports, because it feeds into that. Gold for Oil, remember? We spent $373 million. Average monthly cost of fuel imports. And by the way, it's a blot on our conscience what we've done with TOR vis-a-vis Centur. I'm not denigrating Centur, but even the whole structures and taking from TOR and giving to Centur is problematic. But that's not the conversation today. If you look at the key economic indicators, in terms of gross international reserves, you're looking at 8.9 billion coming from there. That's in terms of USD Ghana cedi depreciation rate, 19.2% as impact. Then you look at the exchange rate in Ghana cedis. 2011, we're looking at 146. Then it rose, that is to the dollar, it rose to about 4.18. We hit 5.54, and now we are standing at 15 cedis and 40 pesos per data from the Ghana Statistical Service. Then there's the monthly inflationary rate. We hit a high in January 2024, 23.5. Went to 25.8. Now we're still hovering around 23.5. So if you look at January 2024 and you look at now, inflation is practically where it was. Nothing much has changed. Of course, that is not to impugn the current administration because change cannot be brought to bear with a wave of a magic wand, abracadabra, and it happens. But that is just to say that if you are looking at the dynamics year on year and where averagely we are, cost-wise, nothing has changed, not much. Then you look at monthly food inflationary rates, and you have 27.2, now we are 28.3. So generally speaking, not necessarily month on month, generally speaking, we may not exactly be better off. And it's hovered around a high of 29.6 in there. Then my final slide, you would also see, it's interesting, isn't it? If your eye quickly went to the dog meat at the bottom, yes, in some parts of the country, it's a thing. And it's enjoyed. I may not take it, but you don't denigrate someone's meat. So ginger has risen by 114.4%. John Dumelo, I know you farm ginger. This is something you should look at as Deputy Agric Minister nominee. Beans, 84.6%. Dried pepper, 82.1%. Okra, and for those of you who say okra doesn't exist. Okra, 79.6%. Onions, you are looking at 76.6%. Yam, now this is a problem. All of these are problematic, but you're looking at yam at 72.9%. Have you ever spoken to those in traffic, asked to buy some before? Brutal. What is it? Watermelon, 59.7%. I don't know whether it's also on the back of some of the markets that have got burnt and watermelon sellers losing their goods. And dog meat, also for 59.7%. Add all of these, they are accounting for where we find ourselves. Dried pepper, moko. Bakposhito and the 82.1%. So it's no surprise when you go to the market and you see some of these dynamics. Everything I've said today has to do with leadership and our economy. We've got a new batch of leaders, well, some of them old in Parliament. Our faith, our hope, our prayer is that they will live up to expectation, stop fighting, stop, throwing tables and chairs, stop disconnecting cables, stop insulting, live up to the expectations of the ordinary Ghanaian, and work to make our lives better. USAID is no longer coming. How are we working towards that? My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts, raw, hot, and edited, undiluted. As always, I pray, may God bless Ghana and make her great and strong. Thanks for watching.
It's Friday, and when you hear that montage play, you know what time it is. It's E-Corner. But right before I hand over to Noella, I want to give a big shout out to Emefa Itiamwa Eli, a producer here at Joy News, but also project lead for Joy News. She's a beautiful woman. We all love and appreciate you, Emefa. Happy birthday. This is coming from all of us, Team AM Show. Another birthday shout out going out to my niece, beautiful daughter of my sister. She's Wenam Kemavo from the Cornerstone International Academy, Etiwa campus. Girl, you look like a superstar because you're going to be one. Happy birthday to my niece. And on that note, let me hand over to Noella. Noella, you look like it's your birthday. Take us away.
Thank you so much. And good morning, and welcome to E-Corner, your weekly dose of entertainment, culture, and everything in between. Most definitely, I'm sure you know the drill. If it's making headlines, if people can stop talking about it, then get ready to eat, because you'll definitely be served. Now, this week gave us a mix of surprises, big wins, and even bigger questions. First, the Ghana Movie Awards made a sudden comeback after 3 years, and let's just say it wasn't exactly what we expected for a comeback. We'll get into the whys and hows of it all, including those controversial award Papa plaques. Also, some major shakeups in Ghana's creative and tourism space, new appointments, new faces, and new expectations. We'll take a closer look at the newly appointed Ghana Tourism Authority CEO, the newly nominated Deputy Minister for Tourism, plus a well-known face in entertainment stepping into politics with his nomination as Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture. And of course, we can't ignore the biggest night in global music, the Grammys. Africa showed up and showed out. And yes, Ghana had a hand in one of the wins. I'm Noella Kareniali, and it's all coming together right after this. Stay with me. Welcome back to E-Corner. Now let's get into business. First up, the Ghana Movie Awards. Out of nowhere, it made a comeback after 3 years of the event being rested. I would have said 5 years. but 2 editions were virtually organized. So yeah, after taking a break for 3 years, and quite interestingly, a week after the swearing-in ceremony of President John Dramani Mahama, the event just happened one evening. No publicity, no build-up to the event. The event just happened. And so instead of excitement, it left a lot of people asking loads of questions about what exactly happened behind the scenes. Well, Fred Nyama is the organizer of the Ghana Movie Awards, and his explanation is quite a story. Listen.
It's a bit political. Unfortunately for us, when we started, we didn't know that the government would be using Accra International Conference Center as their transition office, one. And then secondly, we also didn't know that the government was going to use the place as their seat of government. So there was a bit of restrictions on us.
You mean you didn't have prior knowledge of this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We didn't have. I mean, I didn't know that they were going to use the place for those 2 things I've mentioned.
So how did this affect the publicity of the event?
It because you couldn't bring a lot of people to the place, so we decided to go quiet and concentrate only on the industry. That's what I'm trying to say. Normally we do billboards, we do television ads here and there. We do other stuff as well. But because we wanted to limit it to some few number of people, we decided to go low this time.
Was that the only option? I mean, the venue?
You can say that because we wanted a theater sitting. We didn't want a dinner setting. So we decided to go for the theater one.
So yeah, the sudden organization of the event was because some politicians and members of the transition team were holding a meeting at the same venue. Sounds good? Yeah? No? Well, that's all you get. But apart from the sudden organization of the event, some Ghanaians also raised questions about the type and quality of plaques given to winners of some categories of the awards. And if you're wondering what those plaques looked like, take a look. So that's the plaque, famously nicknamed the Papa plaque. And if you're one of those making wild guesses about the creative thought process that went into settling on a kind of plaque like that, well, Fred Nyama once again has some answers.
Okay, I do know that it's Ghana Movie Awards and Ghana TV Series Awards. Now, it's the Ghana Movie Awards that we have the trademark with a gold-plated plaque. When it comes to Ghana TV Series Awards, because we didn't have a trademark, we started with the golden plaques. We went somewhere else, and then they tried this one as well. So those who had the fun, aka the Papa, they are the Ghana TV Series Awards people. So Ghana Movie Awards did not present Papa, but the 2 events were held the same night.
Good one there. Fred, did you have prior notice of what that particular plaque looked like before the day?
Oh, no, I saw it. Bro, I mean, let's face it. This is, you see, normally we go to China, India, and other places for our plaques, right? So if my team is saying they want to come out with something locally, of course. Now, also, let me say something here. You know, you can't challenge artists. What they see, we don't see it. For example, if you go and check on Mona Lisa, that's more photograph. I'm sure the cost of that photograph would not even be more than $400.
Okay.
When they want to sell it about billions of CDs. So when it comes to artists, they can pick anything and do anything on it and tell you that, oh, this thing is $3,000 or this is so and so.
Fred, you are a creative. You are a creative, and I know a huge one of that. Were you impressed with that particular, creative work as a plaque for winners? Were you impressed with it personally? Personally,
when I was okay. I was okay with it because it was made in Ghana. So I was okay.
Okay.
Until people started complaining, I went back and I told the team, I said, listen, if you are giving something to people and they seem not to like it, it's okay. They are golden, so maybe they want something golden.
Okay, so background of the feedback, are you going to change that next year?
Definitely. As I said earlier, you see, with the TV series, most of the plaques they get every year, they are temporary. We are.
So you heard from Fred Nyama there. It's interesting how he personally accepts that the plaque is famously nicknamed the Papa plaque. But anyways, let's now shift gears to governance. When it comes to tourism in Ghana, I'm sure you would agree that, or that we all know there's potential, in the industry. I mean, the culture, the heritage, the festivals, the landscapes, we've got it all. But the big question has always been, are we doing enough to sell it to the world? Well, a new captain is steering the ship at the Ghana Tourism Authority, and all eyes are on her to see how she plans to shake things up. Just days ago, the government officially appointed a new CEO for the authority. She's a fresh face at the helm, bringing fresh ideas, new energy, and of course, loads of expectations, especially because of who she took over from. And I mean, if you like, the admirable work he had done with the authority in the last 8 years. Plus, she's a woman, which is one of the things I'm excited about. But what is her background looking like? Who is she? Well, Mami Ifwa Wajeto is a distinguished professional with over 2 decades of expertise spanning event production, project management, and leadership. She's the founder and chief executive officer of Image Consortium, a firm renowned for its strategic communications and branding solutions. Concurrently, she serves as the manager, or the managing director, I should say, and creative director of IE Designs, where she oversees, bespoke interior and exterior design projects, merging aesthetic creativity with functional precision. As a prominent member of the National Democratic Congress as well, she served as Deputy National Women's Organizer and later the NDC's parliamentary candidate for the Infantsiman constituency during the 2024 elections. So that's a succinct bio about her. But this week, our cameras followed her to mark her first day in office. If we can look at that, if we can take a look at those visuals. So yeah, it was a mixture of some individuals, some personalities, of obviously the outgoing GTA CEO graciously was there as well. Now, she briefly spoke about how poised and committed she is to making the authority and the industry as a whole excel.
To serve Ghana, and I believe that there's a lot to learn from them, and also there's a lot from me to give Mother Ghana.
A few words, I guess, very, very brief and succinct, plan. But I guess as the days goes by, we'll take a look. We'll be looking at her keenly, especially because, of course, she's a woman. We're hoping she brings some Midas touch to the authority. But her predecessor, Mr. Akwesi Agyeman, who gracefully joined her at her first day at work, suggested to her to consider reviewing the year of return policy, specifically, actually, December in Ghana. Let's take a listen to Akwesi Agyeman.
We've done it for 5 years, and it's time for a review. I mean, last year, because of the election, we didn't really get the time to do an assessment of the 5-year. But I think we have time, and I will urge the new CEO, Mami Ifwa, to take a look at it. How does that integrate into the broader vision of the Black Star experience and how can it be made better. I mean, for me, everything has to be improved. I mean, we've done well, but there is so much that can be done. And so a review of December in GH is required. When I talk about review, it's not to take away from it, but to add on to the experiences. Like you said, some of the events must also cater for children. Some of the events must cater for families, the adults. I mean, I see a trend where it's becoming more like for the Gen Zs.
So you heard from the outgoing GTA, or should I say the outgone GTA CEO Akwesi Agyeman there. But tourism isn't just about beautiful destinations. It's a whole industry that thrives on strong leadership, strategic planning, and the right people making the right decisions. Already, we have the very capable Honorable Abla Jifa Gomashi leading the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry. But this week, the government nominated a new deputy minister to support her in driving excellence and innovation in the sector. But who is he? What experience does he bring to the table? And what could his appointment mean for the future of Ghana's tourism industry or ministry? Well, Honorable Yusuf Isaka Jaja is a member of parliament for the Ayawaso North constituency. He was a research fellow at the Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization in Accra from 2013 to 2016. He was also a consultant of oil and gas from 2011 to 2012 at MDPI and Goodwill International. He hails from Bole in the Savannah region of Ghana and earned his MBA in International Oil and Gas Management from the University of Dundee. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, that's in Scotland, and has a BSc in accounting from the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, and also graduated from the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ghana. That is a brief bio about our newly nominated Deputy Tourism Minister. And already some folks in the creative industry have raised concerns about his nomination, considering his background. But if you ask me, it's a fair balance, considering the background of, the main minister. She's a fully fledged creative, person. She's from the creative industry. And so, it gives that a good balance. As to what he'll be bringing on board, well, I don't know. I don't have the answers. But we'll keep our tabs on him and keenly follow his vetting sesh, like the Gen Zs will put it. That's session. But yeah, they call it sesh. And report back to you, right? But now, let's get on to the plot twist. Even the Ghanaian film industry couldn't script. I mean, that's not a shade. I'm just saying facts, okay? From the big screens to the big leagues of politics, John Seto Dumelo is really uplifting the image of creative or individuals in the showbiz industry. Now, this week, the actor turned politician bagged a major role, nominated as Ghana's Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture. It's a huge step, but let's be honest, it's not entirely surprising, especially if you've followed Dumelo's journey. You'd realize that he's been knee-deep in farming for years, advocating for agriculture and food security, and now he gets the platform to make an even bigger impact. So kudos to him, and we hope he finds success in diligently contributing his quota to the country through food and agriculture. Finally, can we talk about the biggest night in music, where dreams are validated, careers are cemented, and history is made? The Grammys is what I'm talking about. And this year, Africa once again had its moment in the spotlight. Nigerian superstar Tems took home yet another Grammy for the Best African Music Performance with her Love Me, Jeje song. Have you heard that song? If you haven't, you probably should get onto any, music streaming platform. It's really nice. Even more nice because I know that it has a Ghanaian connection, okay? And I'll tell you the Ghanaian connection. One of the key producers of the song is none other than our very own Guilty Beats. Yes, Ghanaian talent played a role in crafting a Grammy-winning masterpiece. I'm sure you don't mind watching some highlights. I mean, apart from Tems winning on the 9th, there are so many big wins. Doechii, a lady who has been doing music for quite a while, but she released 2 singles, and I guess the creative process that went into it blew her up all once again. And so she also won huge on the night, as well as Beyonce, who finally, bagged, Album of the Year. You remember last year, Jay-Z, during his acceptance speech, controversially, I don't even know how to put it, whether he criticized the Grammys or he insulted or whatever it is, he said something to the tune of him not being happy about Beyonce not winning Album of the Year. And so this year, she won it. Take a look at some highlights from the Grammys.
The stars glistened in Los Angeles last night as artists gathered for the 67th annual Grammys.
Cowboy Carter.
And it was a night to remember for one of music's biggest stars as Beyonce finally won Best Album, 25 years after first trying. With nearly 100 categories in all, the continent was paying particular attention to the Best African Music Performance.
The Grammy goes to...
That award was won by Nigerian singer Tems for her hit song Love Me Jeje. And after winning the Best Melodic Rap Performance 2 years ago, Tems is now the first Nigerian to ever win 2 Grammys.
I feel blessed, and I feel like as much as I think, I have something and I'm talented and I have all these gifts, there's so many talented African young artists in Africa that are going to come out and even do more than me.
This year marks only the 2nd time that the Grammy Awards has recognized African music with its own category. But the awards were not without controversy, as the Grammys were criticized for including American R&B star Chris Brown in a category meant for African artists. Many African musicians also felt the Grammy judges did not have sufficient knowledge of the diverse African music genres, with the hope being that this will change from next year onwards. Majid Mohammed, BBC News.
So in case you missed out on the Grammys, there you have it. I was also very much excited for Chris Brown. I mean, that guy's story just blows my mind, and I'm so happy that he's winning all again. He's having his moments, sharing in the spotlight and all of that. So congratulations to Chris Brown. I know he's watching. Yesterday I spoke to him actually. He's doing okay. He's doing fine. Greetings from Chris Brown. But anyway, speaking of Ghana, our presence at the Grammys is growing stronger each year. Okay, music icons like Rocky Dawuni was there. I saw him in a video talking to Vybz Kartel. Also, King Promise was there. He was rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in global music. I saw him also interact with Kai Cenat. I brought you all those. Yeah, that's the visual. So and if you don't know Kai Cenat, well, he's like the biggest streamer in America right now. Almost all, the biggest celebrities, Hollywood celebrities, music, global icons, they all go onto his, platform to sort of sell themselves. He's more or less like YouTuber Koji Sheldon, okay? So that's just for our old and gray millennials, in case you are not so much in touch with the Gen Zs. But beyond just showing up, the big question remains, when will a Ghanaian act also share the big stage with a performance and, also give a heartwarming winning speech like we've seen the Burna Boys do, we've seen the Davidos do, we've seen Tems do. I don't know about you, but you see these fingers? I'm keeping them locked because I still have, hopes that definitely one day, if it's not going to be a Stone Boy, it probably would be a Shatta Wale, it'll probably be a Samini, it'll probably be a Sarkodie. You never know. Or any of the new guys, Kojo Black, whom I'm very much excited about. Next week, I'll be telling you more about Kojo Black, so you should look out for that. But hey, that's how we wrap up this week's edition of E-Corner. From Ghana making waves at the Grammys to new faces stepping into leadership roles in tourism and agriculture, it's clear that the entertainment and creative sector are evolving or is evolving in exciting ways. But the conversations shouldn't end here. Let's keep the energy going. What are your thoughts on these stories. Which one stood out the most for you? You can hit me up on my socials at Karen_Yali. And let's keep the discussions alive, okay? I'm very friendly, I'm very nice. You can just share your thoughts with me, share your suggestions with me as well. I'm very much open to listening to you and sharing your thoughts, your ideas right here on eCorner. It's about you and I, okay? So same time, same place next week. I'll be back with more of the biggest entertainment highlights. Until then, stay plugged in, stay entertained, and as always, stay fabulous. Okay, baby? Stay fabulous.
Wow. Noella.
Hi, my love.
It's such a refreshing, it's very refreshing listening and watching.
Thank you.
I like what you're doing here. But that's that for eCorner with Noella, bringing you all the latest gist, everything trending, everything important in the entertainment industry. But let's move it forward. Now, this Valentine's Day, we know what you want. Something strong, something reliable, something definitely that won't let you down. I'm talking about Sintex. But actually, we're not just talking about bail, we're talking about Sintex tanks. Like true love, Sintex tanks are built to last. They handle pressure like a pro, stay solid through the ups and the downs, and promise no disappointment. So this Valentine, whether you're storing water or storing memories, choose something that will stick with you for the long haul. I'm talking about Sintex tank. Here's how to locate them. Or simply call 0244 335 168 or visit www.sintexgh.com to get your Sintex tank today. Sintex tank is strong, air tough. Now we have a Valentine package for you. You want to watch it, and we'll be back to wrap up.
17 years ago, Murtala Mohammed and Joy Dolce met on a basketball court, a game they both love. Today, their love story continues to flourish.
The feeling is there, to be honest with you, bro. Feeling is very, very there. God is so good and is so great. That area, God has not excluded you being a disabled person, then they will deduct that kind of love out of you. You'll be, no. Anybody who doesn't have love there, I don't think the person is a human being. If the animals have love, how much more human being? Love is something that each and everyone should cherish it very, very well.
It's walewa everybody jail of wamu in jail of kenale nakan kamuko ke disable kenyemi disable insie mo ekule amen no je epapa akuni she one of red epapa ni.
As Valentine's Day approaches, Murtala is planning something special to show his appreciation for Joy. For him, this day is more than just a celebration. It is an opportunity to express his gratitude for her support and love.
I have to take her to a nice place to show her love, to express the love that I have for her, to let her see the love, the physical love of her, for her to feel that whatever she did to me for the past years, I have not even forgotten about it. And this is where I took this Valentine's Day to say thank you very much for being with me all these years.
Despite their strong love, mobility remains one of their greatest struggles. Many taxi drivers refuse to pick them up, making even simple outing a challenge.
It's very difficult too, because imagine a gentleman like me, I've dressed up and I'm taking my wife out to at least a nice joint, so yes, for to have a nice time. So I have to go and stand at the roadside looking for taxi. Imagine being in the wheelchair like this, It look like mommy no more, me made that from. He will not even stand. I knew thinking that you will be at but you want me to be, but he doesn't like to be getting down carrying wheelchair to the car. We are all human. No matter how we are all human. So to me in particular, my wish is in future I have to have my own car. Seriously, at least so that when I'm taking my wife out and my children out, or just having my nice time, at least I'll not struggle on the roadside or just having those type of ugly faces on whereby I'll pay you. See, when it happens like that, you make me feel like, did I went and bought the disability with my own money or something? No. It is by God willing that is happening that way. So my appeal is in future I have to have a new car that I can take my family out anytime I want and have my own electrical wheel, at least I can maneuver around without anybody's help.
For Muntala and Joy, love is not about physical ability. It is about caring for each other and staying together through thick and thin.
I'm a Mariwa, disabled big money, I'm a fierce one. First, square on a ni near Billy back way. I'm a feel like I can't disabled boy. Like my Jenny being on your feet. She be an here Billy bar. I want me piece one make a disabled, come cook a disabled and snacker, yeah, minute, nibby pick me. She disabled big money when I'm a fierce one date. Love, disabled be nearly wa fee. Okay, disabled is your one again. I'm a fierce more, I didn't.
Ivano Jivenu, Joy News, Accra.
Lonlo Vivinako, Manyanya view. Benjamin,
you gotta be careful.
Lonlo Vivina.
I am.
It's okay. It's okay. I got you, bro. I got you. But folks, yeah, inside joke. That's our show for the week, for the day. We're grateful that you spent all the time with us. I hope you enjoyed it. But we are back again next week, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. For now, stay for Joy News Desk.
I'll be away for a while, but you definitely see Siti Abachi right here on the AM show. Joy News Desk is up next.
Happy Friday.